Alright, gamers. I I need to fucking I need to show you all this shit because, okay, here's the deal. Alright, because I saw the EV Games on time. I saw Corrigan say that. And here's the thing, is I'm trying to be a better person. I'm trying to be a good noodle, okay? I'm trying to be in my good noodle arc, okay? And it's, put that! Who did that? Johnny! I literally alt-tabbed and I didn't see who threw it. And then I'm just like, which one of you? But okay, so I'm trying to be... Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted, I'm trying to be in my good noodle arc, okay? So... Y'all, are you done? Are we done? Are we good? Okay! I just have to do what my mom always said. I just have to do what my mom always said and just ignore the haters. Ignore the haters. My eyes are closed. I can't see the haters now. Y'all, remember, I will turn that shit back off. I will turn that shit back off. Okay, anyway. I'm in my good noodle arc, okay? I'm in my good noodle arc, and I'm trying to do the thing where I don't, like, sit down to stream, right? I'm trying to stay focused. Where I don't, like, sit my ass down and get ready to stream 5 minutes beforehand, right? So that way I can, like, check everything, make sure everything works, all that jazz, right? And originally I opened up my Skyrim because I wanted to fuck with my EMB a little bit, right? But if you follow me on Twitter... or if you're in the Discord, I found... Oh, we need to eliminate Dave. Everyone say goodbye, David.
Hello.
Goodbye, David.
Oh, no.
Goodbye, David. He's gone. He's been eliminated. But welcome in, everybody. Hello, gamers, to Skyrim Sunday. So I had a... Let me turn the Skyrim sound back on. I had a little bit of a discovery. Yeah, David's dead and I killed him. That's a joke for legal reasons. That is a joke, okay? It is a joke. I'm just joshing. I'm just joshing ya. I'm just joshing, okay? I am just joshing. So anyway, let me get the game on because I did forget to do that. So much for my good noodle arc. But anyway, here it is. I also accidentally opened Skyrim twice, which I didn't think you could do that, but I fucking did. So here's the thing. I wanted to, oh fuck, I don't have OBS on the right monitor. I need to read what you all say. If I don't hear you guys constantly boosting my ego, I will shit my own pants and cry. So here we go. I can still hear his voice. No. David's not under the floorboards. We already live in a basement, okay? I can't put him under the floorboards twice, or can I? Okay, so I wanted to do some edits to Severin. I wanted to kind of tweak with his appearance a little bit because he was looking a little too scrunkly. Okay, he was looking just a little bit too scrunkly. You committed crimes against the David fan club community. Since when is there a David fan club community? Y'all motherfuckers don't even have an Amy fan club community. What's this got to do with him? I love the... Oh, also, I don't know what the fuck... Why the courier's here?
Misty, I've been looking for
Wait,
you
what?
all my life.
What?
Huh?
I'm sorry. I have a letter.
What's going on?
Thanks. You're adorable.
Aww.
And now I have an erection.
What? Sir, I just started stream. We cannot have an erection. Not even 10 minutes in stream. Get you and your hard dick out of here. Yeah, go. Get out of here. Get out of here. Oh my god. Thank you for the clip. Well, you know, maybe now that Misty has a never a good time to stream. So, you know, okay, we'll get to the bit I want to do in a second, but, oh my god. Maybe if Misty's fucking the courier, she'll leave me the fuck alone, because I don't even have her as a follower right now, I don't think. I think she's just, like, fucking here. Like, just like me, for real? David, shut up. You're going back in the floorboards. Okay, so... What was that about, bestie? Like, what you got there?
Take a look.
Okay, let's read. Are we gonna do a dramatic reading of it? Let's read this together. It's story time. But welcome in, everybody. I know I started really fast, but that's because someone got an erection, and you know how that goes. But welcome in, gamers. Welcome to Skyrim Sunday. She's like the yandere wife. Here's the thing with Misty is I'm not afraid of Misty. Like, Misty isn't creepy or threatening. She's just annoying, right? So she's just like... I don't know. Okay, if this is gonna be a dick pic, if this is gonna... If I get a dick pic via Skyrim, I know, Jetmir, that's what I'm saying. Okay, where is it? Is it the... Do you hear my cat? Oh yeah, there's the boner trouble letter. Hold on. Where was it? It was... What was it even called? Letter from Hakal. Okay, it's not a Skyrim dick pic. It's not a Skyrim dick pic. Yeah, Jetmir was like, mother, what the fuck? Okay, let's see. To Misty Skye. I'm not sure why I'm writing to you, but I couldn't think of another option. I've heard rumors that you've been traveling in the company of a great warrior, helping people in need. That's me! Okay, I do not know the name of your friend, but I knew a courier would be able to find you. You're hard to miss. Okay, so she's not fucking the courier, but the courier did... okay. Sorry, I will get to the point. My beautiful daughter, Heidi, has gone missing, along with several of her young friends. Since my wife has passed, Heidi is all I've got, and I'm worried sick about her. Heidi and her friends took a day trip to their favorite spot at the hot springs, southwest of the old ruins outside town. We live in Kynesgrove, and they never returned. It's been 2 days now. I would have checked in on them sooner, but they said it was a girls-only party, which usually means they're swimming naked, and it didn't... Wait, he said this is his wife and daughter, right? No, it's his daughter and... It didn't seem proper to intrude. Yeah, that'd be kind of fucked up if you did intrude. I don't know how worried I should be. They're all at least 18 years of age now. Why do we need to clarify that? Why are we clarifying that, sir? I don't like where this quest is going. This seems, sussy. And should be able to take care of themselves out there, but it's not like them to be gone so long. I can't help but think of that neighbor boy, Travis. Can I say something? This might be kind of mean, but like, you think about like the naming conventions in Skyrim and everything. This is one of the Misty Skye quests. A courier came, gave Misty Skye this note, and then told her, I have an erection, and ran away, which is interesting. Here's the thing. It's like all the names in Skyrim are like, Jarl Balgraf, right? Or, Ella the Huntress, you know, Inigo. And then we got fucking Travis. Who's next? Is her ex-boyfriend gonna be named like Scott? You know? I'm sorry. Travis, touch that. Okay. I can't help but think of that neighbor boy Travis who wandered off one night and never returned. He was around my daughter's age too, though I don't think she liked him much. Anyway, he's been gone at least a year now, maybe 2. And nobody knows what happened. I fear the worst for my daughter and her friends. Not everyone's good with names. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. There's a lot happening. I need to drink water. I'm sorry. I'm laughing too hard. I'm sorry. I hope they merely lost track of time cavorting around naked somewhere like they do. To be honest, it's a relief to finally have a bit of peace and quiet around here. My daughter's friends can be a real handful. They're well out of control, always running around my house in their little underclothes. I don't like this. This is a little... Putting their hands all over each other's bodies, saying the most inappropriate things. Chat, is this real? Chat, is this real? They know I am a lonely land and they seem to take great delight in Sir, I think can I kill this man? I kind of want to kill this man. What if I just kill this man? Stop being weird about your daughter and her friends. I just want to be a good father to Heidi. Source? Well, thank you so much for coming around saying hi, Spyro. I appreciate you. Thank you, gamer. My vote to return to the Bone Zone. We're done with the Bone Zone, chat. We're done with the Bone Zone, okay? No, thank you for the hydrate. But she seems to never go anywhere without this horde of rowdy, half-naked wenches in tow. I mean, good for her. You know, good for her. Is Yuriana done with him? I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I tend to ramble when I write. The point is, I want my daughter back. Maybe you and your hero friend could take a look at their campsite, see if you can figure out what happened. I would certainly reward you handsomely for their safe return. This is weird. Whoever made this quest is a very specific fetish. I feel like there's, like, multiple fetishes at play here. Like, I don't think it's just one. I think there's a lot to unpack here. I'm gonna be honest.
You need something?
What's the deal with... Okay, you're useless right now. Apparently she is in my framework for some reason. Apparently I did re-recruit her. Why I did that, I have no fucking idea. Anyway, the bit I was gonna do before all that happened. So, By the way, last week we did get Inigo, which is cool.
My friend, Skyrim is a big and often confusing place.
Candy's nuts fit in your mouth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Never
I'm
fear.
sorry.
That map you have is special.
Yeah? This whole thing?
Yes.
I will
There
swing.
is more
I will
to
sing
it
Sweet
than
Home
you
Alabama.
realize.
I
My
promise.
brother once found one just like
I'll
it
sing the
under
guitar
hand of
solo
some
too.
Poor old adventurer in Citadel. It does not only mark locations, it can also show the position of items and people too. Watch this. Where are you, Inigo?
Wait, I thought you're.
There.
Oh, you're reading. Okay.
See? I have
Hi,
placed
Rosemary,
myself
welcome
on
in.
your map.
Welcome
If
in,
you find
everybody.
yourself
Hello, hello.
separated, all you need to do is look me up.
Oh, and
That'd
he's
be
explaining his map
fantastic,
marker. Okay, that makes sense. Are we rescuing some half-naked wenches? So they're. I guess. I kind of want to kill the dad. I think killing the dad could be fun. You know, Inigo seems. Why are both of these options mean? Inigo seems like a nice fella. Why? I don't want to be mean to Inigo. I want to be mean to Misty. I don't want to be mean to Inigo. Inigo. That's great. Thank you.
No problem. I am always happy to help.
What a good noodle. What an absolute good noodle. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay. So, here's what I wanted to do when we started stream. By the way, last Fallout stream, my dad texted me. He's like, hey, me and mom were watching your stream last night. And I was like, yeah? And he was like, yeah. I was like, what part did you see? And he's like, well, we heard the part about you talking about a girl flex sealing her pussy. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, it was really funny. Like, your mom and I were losing our shit. You're hilarious. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, we also learned about David selling foot pics. And I was like, yeah. Like, I was expecting them to be like, you shouldn't say things like that on the internet, young lady. But they were just like, did you? And I was like, no, we ended up not doing it. Go, geez, thank you for the pasta check. And they were like, well, why not? And I was like, what do you mean, why not? He's like, why didn't you sell feet pics? Like, you could have made the money for Disney World, like, so easily. And I was like, Mom? Dad? What? But I explained to them the whole tax thing, and they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. They also didn't know WikiFeet was real. They thought it was like a joke David was making, and I had to explain to my parents that WikiFeet was real. So that was an experience. So Mom, Dad B, Mom B, EV2, if you're watching, hi. Sorry you had to see all that, but I'm glad you're proud of me and support my content creation endeavors. Are you getting scolded for not selling feet pics? No, I'm getting scolded for making sure David didn't sell feet pics, which is something. But anyway, this is what I wanted to show you guys. So I was digging around in show race menu, and I wanted to tweak Severin's appearance a little bit. So the changes are kind of subtle, but I think he looks a lot nicer. I made his skin tone a little bit darker. I made his eyes a little bit bigger, so they're a little bit less like, they're a little bit not as like squinty. But I found a really fun setting, and I wanted to show it to you guys. So if you scroll, where is it? In head. There's head up and head down. So if we just... What the heck do? But here's the thing, is I showed you guys that on Discord and on Twitter, but there's actually another setting I haven't tried yet. But what was it? So that's neck up and down, but there's also head forward and back. What is this? I swear I'm gonna keep it back, but I just... Oh my god, he's really like... Wait. Hold on. Wait. Hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear. So that's something I discovered, and I just wanted to show that to you. But I thought chat would... Oh, wait, what? I swear to God, I'm gonna play the game. I swear I'm gonna play the game. Wait, you know what? I'll dance with you, Misty, just this time. He looks like, oh my god. When your wives are mad and it's pegging knife, he really be like, fine. You don't have to peg me or anything, Baka. It's not like I want you to peg me or anything. It's not like I want your girl cock, Baka. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm done. Let me put him back. I'm putting him back. Put it right. Is that good? He got a little bit of a neck, but that's good. That's good. So I just wanted to show you that. Some of us don't own headphones. Listen, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you are watching an EB game stream with no headphones, I cannot be held legally responsible. So we got the wives, we got the old entourage with us. But something I did, you make Dorian Gray blush sometimes? Perfect. But something I did do actually in my good noodle arc, okay, was I went through my quest beforehand, right? So I thought about what I want us to do today. So right now, we are right outside of the Bone Zone, which is close to Markarth. Now, here's the thing, is I don't want to go to Markarth quite yet, because I know as soon as we go to Markarth, that's going to, like, put us in Forsworn Conspiracy, and I don't really want to do that quite yet, and I'm not even sure if I want to do it at all. Right now, what we were slated to do, because we did start Legacy of the Dragonborn, but right now I'm kind of conflicted on if I want to still do Legacy of the Dragonborn, because, good news, if you haven't heard, I hit YouTube partners! So thank you everyone that's been watching the VODs and all that jazz. But because of that, I'm going to start streaming on YouTube once per week, and I did a poll on my YouTube community page, and a lot of people want to see me do from what y'all said, thank you gamers, a long form Skyrim playthrough. So the Skyrim playthroughs that we do with Skyrim Sunday are kind of short form, and they're focused on one character and doing different archetypes. But what I'm thinking if I do a Skyrim playthrough on YouTube is it's going to be a very long form thing with one character, and we're going to try to do a completionist run of Legacy of the Dragonborn. So I'm thinking right now, depending on what I do on how that YouTube stream goes, I might put Legacy stuff in this playthrough on the back burner, you know, so that way I don't get like burnt out on the quest or whatever. YouTube stream be how long? So YouTube streams are gonna be every Friday at 6:30 p.m. EST, same times as my regular streams. They're probably gonna be like 2 to 3 hours, about the same time as I normally stream. You know, it's just gonna be on YouTube. If you make yourself short, your head doesn't reach any character's shoulders. Good to know. So I don't think we're gonna do this quite yet. But I do want to do, because we didn't do this last playthrough, I do want to do, what is it called? Forgotten City. We didn't do Forgotten City last playthrough, and I think it'd be really fun to check out and play it again, because I don't think I've played it again. I honestly don't think I've played Forgotten City since we started doing immersive collections, honestly. If I did, it was like the Rasha playthrough, you know, so I don't remember a lot about it. So I really want to give it a try, you know? So let me see, make sure I'm going on the right road, because I don't want to get lost. Yeah, because that's mountains. So we'll go, let's go to like this road, and then we'll go across. I think that'll be the easiest way to do this, because I don't want to get fucked up. You know what I mean? I don't want to like, y'all know I'm bad with directions. If you watched the New Vegas stream last night with David, y'all know it's bad. Oh, what's this? Oh, it's a Khajiit caravan. Okay. But yeah, I tried to make it, because whenever I watch my VODs back, I noticed that the game sometimes looks really dark. Particularly on TikTok, it looks really dark, or it looks really washed out. And like, this area of Skyrim right now definitely is a little bit more like spicy. Well, not spicy. It's like kind of, I don't want to say bland, because I feel like that sounds, but it's like very foggy. It's very dark. You know what I mean? So I actually turned my brightness down, and that helped with my EMB a lot. But I'm having this issue where, like, I know my EMB's working, because if y'all remember when we first started using immersive collections, I was having issues with the purple trees and the purple mountains. Oh shit, what the, whoa. What is going on over here? Oh my god, what the fuck? Holy shit. Forsworn ambush? Are you good? No, you're dead. Okay, good. But yes, I do have an ENB on. Because if I didn't, the trees and shit would be looking kind of funky in here, right? But I do not want to carry your titties. God damn it. First time chat note. Welcome to the stream. I'm glad you're enjoying. Oh, thank you so much for watching all of the VODs. It really means a lot. want to be. I'm sorry the first thing you had to come in on. Oh my god! Okay. Oh shit, I'm lagging. Why do I have ping and Anyway. But thank you so much. I'm glad you're caught off. Oh, now I can't say titties. But I'm sorry you had to come in on, well, I can't say the T word, but I can say big gargantuan breasts. So sorry you had to come into that. Or you're welcome. I don't know what you're into. But yes, I am using the EMB that, Chibi time! Thank you, Night Sky. Welcome in, everybody. It looks like it is Chibi time. Let me see. Do I remember which one is the Chibi? Chibi? Or is this my... Chibi! Okay, do I remember what the hotkey is to get my face from being unchubby? Because here's the thing with Chibi, and I have to redo this whole shit. The thing with Chibi, right, is she has like not a lot going on, but as you can see, she's kind of like we had to recenter her a little bit, but she has one toggle. And it's her stupid little chubby cheeks, and I love them. It's F1. Will that put me back? There we go. Okay. Chibi time! All right, do you prefer me just, I'm just gonna put myself right here, and we're gonna see what happens. Let me tweak. I actually haven't used Chibi EB in forever, so let me make sure this is okay, that my mouth is will open for you, because the one thing I don't like about Chibi is sometimes her mouth just doesn't open at all, and it kind of annoys me. So that should be, there we go. Now we're cooking. All right, now I am a little potato, and you could, I don't know, I kind of want to, can I say something fucked up? God, thank you. I kind of want to get to a point as a content creator where I'm big enough to make myself into a marketable plushie so I can punt myself across a football field. I think that'd be, I love this model, but I think she looks very puntable. You know what I'm saying? Oh!
Halt, Outlander. By the code of Malakath, this stronghold belongs to the orcs. Your kind are unwelcome.
I'm just a traveler, bro. What's going on?
This is our stronghold. Here we are free to live as Malakath intended, away from the prying eyes of the Nords. You are not an orc, our bloodkin, so stay out. We only help our own.
Okay, here's the thing is Severin, albeit, here's the thing with this playthrough, right? Severin is one of my OCs I've had for a really long time, and, he's really respectful. He is a very good noodle. And he's a very, respectful man. I'm not. I'm the fucking worst. So, we're gonna be a good noodle, okay? We're gonna be a good noodle. Who's Malakath? Give us the lore.
He is the Daedric Lord of
I would
the
die
Orcs,
for a chibi plushie. Maybe we'll do it as, a subathon goal or something,
We live by his code.
Just because I have looked into it, and production for plushies is really expensive. Wait, can I shameless plug real quick? If you type ! merch into the chat, you'll get a link to the EB Games merch store. Okay, I'm done. Anyway, we'll just, walk around the stronghold. We'll walk around. I don't want any trouble, but yeah, so that's the one thing I do really like about, wait, what? Reach the place. I forgot we had that marker. That's very ominous. Okay, let's go over here. But, yeah, we actually need to go this way. I actually was going the wrong way for a little bit. But, what was I gonna say? Yeah, okay. So, here's the thing with Skyrim and why I like playing it. And I think I've told you guys this before, but, half the reason I play Skyrim so much is I love, tabletop RPGs, and I love writing, okay? When I was a little kid, I used to write novels all the time, right? Full-on fucking novels. And I remember, at one point, I wrote a fan fiction. Oh, what the fuck? God, why are there so many bears today? Okay, there we go. But I used to write a lot of fan fiction, right? Can I? No, I think I'll have to go around the mountain. Wait, what? Oh, there's another bear? Oh my god! Holy guacamole! Welcome in, gamers! I'm in the mountains. I mean, yeah. Ladies, are you going to do something? My wenches!
Lets himself get surrounded.
The bears are going for the twink. Stop! But yeah, so I used to write all the time. And I remember I actually wrote fan fiction for this anime that no one at my school had heard of. Because this was back in oh god, 2010, 2011. So anime wasn't like mainstream yet, right? Like I still got the shit kicked out of me for wearing a Sailor Moon t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? But like I remember I wrote this fan fiction essentially, and it was making like all my friends self-inserts into it essentially, but no one knew it was fan fiction, right? Because no one had seen the original anime, you know? Is this still the stronghold? Yeah, I'm not gonna mess with, how do I get to this place? It's like, okay, this is gonna be weird. We're just, cause there's mountains, so I guess I'm just gonna have to go around and across, I guess. I hate directions. I think that'll be, yeah, I think if we do this and then, well, let me look at the map a little bit closer, actually. I think you can just go straight to it. Okay, all right. I'll put my dick in a mountain. That's not what I meant, but that is also exactly what I meant. But anyway, this fan fiction that I wrote got so popular with everyone, they started like paying me to read it, right? Like people were like passing around this fan fiction I wrote. I like printed it all out with like my dad's printer paper, you know, and he was like really chill about it. But people were like paying me $5 for a copy of, and they didn't know it was fan fiction. And like, I don't think that was like poorly written. Like, I don't want to discredit fan fiction writers. Okay, like this might be a hot take, but I think fan fiction is valid, especially if that's like your start into writing. And for me, you know, as a kid with ADHD, it was really hard to like do world building and shit on my own. So fan fiction was like awesome for that. You know what I mean? All right, what is this? Okay. Understandable. We're gonna skip that because I fucking hate dwarven ruins. Oh, I'm so glad you like chibi. Yeah, we gotta redeem for chibi, so it's chibi time. But yeah, so like, that was the thing. I love reading Warcraft Day of the Dragon. Is that fan fiction? I'm going the wrong way. But is it like on the mountain or around the mountain? Because if I go straight, I'm just gonna get. Wait, is there a path through the mountain? Because that's my thing, is I don't want, is on the, oh, okay. I hate mountains. The amount of times I've played Skyrim, the amount of hours I have in this game, and I still do this shit is fucking incredible, honestly. Thank you for telling me that. But yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh, it's rumbly. Oh, okay, maybe I am going the right way. That's an official novel? Yeah. See what I mean? Okay. We'll go around this rock. We'll just do this. And it'll be fine. Yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to go that way, but that's okay. I could get a horse, actually. That's a valid strategy. I could get a horse. Secret tunnel. Yeah, we're just gonna, oh my god. Okay, this works. This works. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. But yeah, I really liked like writing my own characters. And as I started getting into like tabletop RPGs, oh shit. Something I realized, I'm not really great at world building, but I love making characters and I love making like backstories for my characters and stuff like that. And I always use Skyrim as like a mechanism to kind of like figure out their personality and decision making and stuff, but also like full stop. I sometimes just use Skyrim as a dress-up game. Like, the amount of times I've started immersive and adult saves and just, like, dicked around the, oh my god, what was it? I don't remember what the starting area is called, but the starting area in immersive and epic, and I'll just, like, dress up characters is too many. I ended up coming in my thing around, yeah, I was talking about girl cock. Sorry about that. It will happen again. It will happen again. Skyrim fused with The Sims? Absolutely. Are you a friend? Okay, you're my acquaintance. Wait, what's going on here? Oh, vampires! Stop!
Is someone there? Oh, no.
Here, is she not taking damage? Does she not take damage to my thorns? I know I have some spells that are better for the undead. That was the one thing I wanted to do, but I didn't have time for it. $3, thank you so much for the follow. You're not Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream, despite my ramblings about girl cock. Have you tried Dragon's Dogma? I haven't, but it's been recommended to me several times. So, what was I talking about? I forgot. But yeah, that was something else I wanted to do before I started stream, but I got distracted with the neck, the neck thing. Is I wanted to kind of go through my spells, because I'm glad we got the spells we wanted early, like the druid type spells, but also now we have like every spell in the game, and it's kind of overwhelming. All right, let's go over here. But yeah, I haven't done this quest in like forever. Let's check it out. We'll check it out. Can my wenches come with me? I don't know, actually. I don't know. Dragging these nuts. All right, let's go. Whoa. Can my wenches come? Are they allowed? Hello? 'Tis I, EB Games, hit Twitch streamer and women enjoyer.
Who are you?
Sorry. Did you, the fucking, the dramatic slow movement of the booba. Did you see that? I'm sorry. All right, I'm Severin. I got your letter.
Oh, it's you.
It's me.
I'm so glad you're here. Look, I don't know how much time we have left. My brother went down this shaft a few days ago, and I'm worried. I need you
could
to
go down my
after him
shaft
and bring him back to me alive.
I'm really sorry.
It could be dangerous, but
sorry.
if anyone can
Sorry.
do it,
That was
it's
my
you.
character. That was all me.
Are you ready?
God damn it. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready.
I knew I could count on you. Now quickly, go.
Okay. Wait, the first sim game used the same files as Half-Life. I love Half-Life. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to try that. I freaking love the original Half-Life. Maybe
girl
Mocha.
boss.
Oh, Mochas! Welcome in, gamer. Thank you for the follow. I'm really sorry if you're you're not canceling Gatekeep Girl Boss. Really sorry if if your first introduction to my stream was whatever the fuck I was saying about shafts. I apologize. But anyway, hole. Whee! Oh, wait, my bitches can't come with me. No, my bitches! I'm nothing without my bitches, no! My women! God, I'm gonna be... What? Okay, well, Inigo's here. We got that. Anyone else? Okay, when they load through a door, okay, I'll watch out for that. Let's see. Ooh. My bitches! Yay! No tutti sushito again. Oh my god. I think my dad was thinking of cosplaying G-Man at one point when we went to a convention. Okay, well, I've got the gang's all here. Maiden list no more. Oh my gosh, he looks really nice in this light. Hold on, can we have a moment, like, just to appreciate? Wait, hold on, I need to take a screenshot. Smile for the Insta! Oh my god, he looks nice. Has anyone ever told you that you sometimes sound like Nora from Ruby? I haven't gotten Nora from Ruby, but I get told I sound like Tiny Tina a lot. That's something, people compare me to Tiny Tina all the time, but I haven't played Borderlands like ever. Can we smash Inigo? I mean, we did kind of like see him and his dick was out, like at first encounter, which was kind of, you know. I don't disrespect it. Like, I respect it, you know. You do have the Tiny Tina personality. That's the thing is, I haven't played Borderlands, so I don't know what that means, you know? And David's like kind of oh, I thought he was naked. He's just burnt to a crisp. That's fine. Okay. I can show like that on Twitch, but God forbid I show a female presenting nipple. That's a no. Okay. Ooh. This looks so cool. Wait, oh. Nor. Okay,
To
this-
whoever reads this,
oh, this is getting dark.
I am so sorry.
I need the visual.
Like this, and worse, that you will share my fate.
If he just talks, I'm not gonna understand what he's saying. I have to see the visual while we hear the dialogue.
Going around and
Have you played this before? This is like my second time playing it. The first time I played it was like forever ago.
But there are only two choices. Death, or the door to the house on the lake.
Oh.
I made the mistake of opening that door. I thought I could help them.
So don't get the lake house Airbnb, y'all.
Whatever I did, it took me right back to that lake house. In the end, all I learned is that some things are worse than death.
Like Airbnb.
I urge you to learn from my mistakes. Best to take
Hi,
your
Leo.
own life
Welcome.
and find out what awaits you
I know,
beyond
Jetmir.
that door.
Okay.
I've locked it and hidden the key.
Tiny Tina is a chaotic gremlin who really likes women. Yeah, that's me.
if I have to. But I fear even that will not be enough.
Huh.
For the lake house calls to you.
This is very Silent Hill.
And when it does, you must not listen.
I don't know why, but I can't think of Lake House without thinking about, like, Airbnbs. You know what I mean? Like, you ever get those TikToks on your For You page where it's, like, 5 girls, and they're like, we, like, rented out an entire lake house for $40. And I'm like, how do you get, like, I don't know. I keep seeing these TikToks about, like, the Taylor Swift concert, right? And I'm not, like, a huge Swiftie. And given the demographics of my audience, I'm willing to bet most of y'all aren't either. But, like, here's the thing. I keep seeing these TikToks where people are like, hey, you should just get 20 of your friends to go to the Eras concert and get a suite and split it. And my dumbass, my thoughts is like, how many of y'all have 20 friends? How many of y'all got 20 friends? I have like 6 that aren't like online friends. Maybe if I have to like count, like, do people have that many friends? Genuinely? Like, I guess if it was like friends and family, maybe, but even then. Oh, shoot.
Shoes once.
Oh, he is going.
A lifetime.
I'll shut up.
I remember the way the lake house calls to you.
Ooh. Ooh. Are you calling us friendless? I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but you are watching a VTuber. No, I'm kidding. Here's the thing. It's like, y'all probably have more friends than I do. I'm awkward as shit in real... Thank you for the like. I'm awkward as shit in real life. Like, I've had a few people ask me this, like, with conventions. They'll be like, hey, is it, like, okay if I come, like, talk to you when you go to a con or something? And I'm like, absolutely. If you see me at a convention, you are more than welcome to come say hi with me. In fact, it would probably make my fucking day. You just need to understand that I am so awkward in real life. Like, I am just an absolute... menace in real life. I will be so awkward, and if it like feels like, if it looks like I'm uncomfortable, I'm probably not. I just don't know how to handle social situations. I'm watching a horny weirdo who happens to be a VTuber. That's true. I did notice when I like sometimes like I feel like a lot of my audience, like, do you feel like you guys like watch a lot of other VTubers, or is it like I feel like my audience is like half people that watch VTubers like specifically, and have people that like just like watch me because I happen to be a VTuber, because I am one. Okay, cool. Let's see. Dwamora, I would like to thank you for the pleasure of your company last night and for the delightful dinner. Saphira prepared. I must apologize for Dwamora's sullen attitude, and I assure you that the low personal opinion she expressed of you is simply the result of tumultuousness of adolescence. Oh, mood. That's really a way to say teenage angst. I watch both VTubers and FleshTubers. That's the thing, is I nowadays view like, I view VTubing as like a medium for content rather than a genre. I just want to, I don't click away from in the first 5 seconds. That means a lot to me. Thank you. I'm explaining to her that you'll be my successor as Jarl one day, and she will need to pay you due respect. Interesting. Okay. Let's see, what else is going on in here? Dominus a bitch. All my homies hate Dominus. I mean, maybe. Ooh, these are good gifts for our wenches. That's a hammer, not necessarily a good gift. It's dark in here. Ooh, drugs. Can we give drugs to our wenches? Like, that sounds really bad out of context. But like, as a gift, can I just be like, my lady, the finest black tar heroin for you? Like, is it super dark? Yeah, it is really dark in here. I kind of want to up the brightness up, but I don't want it to like look washed out. Let me try that real quick. You can have a little heroin as a treat. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, it's probably gonna, yeah, it looks so washed out like that, but, oh, okay, shadows. I was not able to see. EMBs are always weird about that. Yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know. Ooh, books. I can't read. Game of Thrones Season 8 filter. I'm just taking the books I haven't read before. I will read that, though. Let's see. Also, if you don't have the mod Unread Books Glow, highly recommend. Okay. What's this old letter? Oh, thank you for the hydrate boundary. Okay. Gaia, I know you've already decided to leave, and there's nothing I can say to convince you to stay with me and your family here in High Rock. I just want to say that I think you're making a terrible mistake, choosing a life of research in dusty old tombs over what I offered you, marriage, children, and a beautiful home. Well, she wants to be in a dusty old tomb, then that's her right. Yeah, this guy is an insult. Gerald. Whose fucking name is Gerald? Gerald. Just go with Gerard, go with Jared, not fucking Gerald, okay? Thank you for the posture check. I'm just going to come out and say it. I loved you once, but I honestly hope I never see you again. You can burn in oblivion for all I care? Can I meet this dude? I want to absolutely ruin this guy's life. I need to fuck this guy's dad. I need him to, like, not have a good time. I want to fuck this guy's dad, become his stepmom, and then, like, shit on his day. What a guy. Ew. Gerald is the one who named the mountain range. Well, Gerald can suck my nuts. Oh, what's going on? Poor Gerald. No, not poor Gerald. He's a bitch. If you're a woman, listen. Oh, different Gerald. Oh, that sucks though. That's like sharing a name with like someone super fucked up. Like that's like having your name be like Shane Dawson or some shit, and you're not related to the YouTuber. Can you imagine like people come up to you and they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" "Oh, I'm like Shane Dawson." "Oh, like the cat fucker?" No, different Shane Dawson. Oh, let's get rid of this skeever. Get out of here. Oh my god. There's something really funny to me about like just one minor like thing, like one minor enemy, and they're all like blah, 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 blah. Okay, there we go. I was gonna say something, but I couldn't remember what it was. But I don't know. Probably best I don't know. What was I gonna say? I don't know. Yeah, if your lady wants to run off in a mountain range and hang out with ghosts, then that is her God-given right. Okay. All right, we're going in the Forgotten City. That's the name of the mod. Ooh, hey, what? All right, are we all here? What, are you good? Are you good? Okay, I feel like I'm like on a field trip whenever we come out, like whenever we load into a new area, I feel like I have to like do a head count, like, okay, you're here, you're here, you're here, you're here, you're here. Okay, we got everybody, let's go. Okay, let's see. Do I just yeet my butt off there? I guess so. Okay. Oh, there's a dude there. Is he gonna like come to life and eat my ass? Are you gonna eat my ass? Okay. All right. It says go over there, but I kind of want to explore a little bit. Hold on. Wait, no, this is where we came from. Oh wait, that's where I was supposed to get the fucking key on the balcony. Oh, I'm dumb as fuck. Okay. Well, it is what it is. God damn it. Okay. Into the Forgotten Ruins. All right, let's check it out. I'm not the smartest tool in the shed. I'll be the first to admit that. Okay, let's go. Retrieve the house key. Do I need to like what? Explore the Forgotten City for a way out. Do I need the house key? Wait, no, this is where I came from, isn't it? Yeah, this is where I came from. Where the fuck am I going? Let's see. What? Sir, are you okay? Are you good? Okay. Let's go back. I'm a little directionally challenged, okay? Just a wee bit. A wee bit. Okay, let's go back in here and let's see what's going on. Let's get a lay of the land, okay? A lay of the land. So that's the dude. Let's check this out, actually. What do you mean a little? Mushroom? There's like all these little houses. Yeah, let's check this out. This looks like the place we need to go. Just because it's all glowy and shit. I'm back and smiling like crazy. Ah, yay! This reminds me of one of my favorite dialogue exchanges. Oh boy. What's this? Why is there like goo? Oh, okay, let's try. Wait, we never found the ghost actually. So let's go here because I think I need to do that. I'm a little dumb, okay? I'm a little stupid, and that's all I got, okay? I'm just, ooh, cabbage. Okay, let's try that again. I gotta go turn something else on before the grandma driver arrives and you just scream about fucking someone's dad. No, that's your opportunity to promo me, bro. Just be like, no, that's not me. That's a hit streamer, EB Games on twitch.tv/EB Games. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. There are some people that are like, I've talked about this before, but there are some people that will like I do that shit ironically. You know what I mean? I'm doing it ironically, but like people that like self-promo in other people's chats always has me kind of like, you know what I mean? Is this where I came from? What's this? What is that? What? I feel like this is where we came from, but this is where it told us to go. So over here? No, this is not where we need to go. No, oh, I think it's up. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb. Okay, so it's, okay. I think I know where we're supposed to go. I think. Because that just leads me back to where we came out. Yeah, because this is the, yeah, okay. Because I thought balcony. Okay, balcony. Where is the balcony? Is it up there? This is the way we left. Okay. Yeah, because that's balcony. Balcony. Do I have to go up? Yeah, this is where it says to go, though. Let me untick every other quest, because I think it's confusing me. Deadass. Okay, hold up. Hold up. I was looking right at it. Oh my god, stop. Okay, balcony. Citadel. Yeah, from the Citadel Oh, I got confused. Okay, I got confused. I thought it was like the same. It looked very similar to the way we came in from. That's why I got confused. I'm sorry. I swear to God. I'll get it right this time. Okay. We must go upseas. Upseas. Wait. What? Yeah, it's directly up. Okay. Is there another way to go? Yeah, we looted this room. I guess we have to go this way. Ah! Alright, thank you for the heat entanglement. Welcome in. Upseas? I feel like there'd be one of those big spinny thingies here. You know, those big. Whoa!
To myself, do I want to die in here alone?
His voice is kind of hot.
Or do I want to open that door?
He's got that corpse husband thing going on. You know what I'm saying?
It seems like a simple choice, and yet.
Stealing books, stealing books, stealing books, stealing books. Oh, I have that one already. Okay.
Was the better option all along?
Only the first few times. It gets old. Oh boy. He's just got a lot to say. Taro! Thank you so much for the Prime sub, gamer. You now have a PlayStation 2. Thank you so much for the Prime. I really appreciate it. Welcome in, gamer. There's a guy. I always like. I need to not like. I know they're not gonna come to life, but I'm like fucking traumatized. I'm afraid I'm gonna pop up and he's just gonna be like, you know what I mean? It kind of fucks with me. Does it sound like he's forcing me? I guess so, yeah. There's definitely like some sort of effects on it, you know? Funny. Oh, wait, whoa. Did you see him? Wait a second. Did you see that skeever?
I'm disappointed.
He was kind of like squaring up for a second. He was kind of like, whoa. Did you see that? He was like standing up. He was trying to test me. Unsent letter. Dearest Braywin, I know this letter will never reach you, but I want to write to you anyway. One of my neighbors here said it might help me get closure, whatever that means. I wish I could tell you how sorry I am about what happened. You must be wondering why I just disappeared one day. Wait, is this from the lady that disappeared here? No, because this is saying to Braywin, not to, what was that guy's name? What, fucking Gerald? Fucking Gerald. Yeah, he was standing there minding his business and you came into his home and killed him. Why do you have to say it like that? Why do you have to say it like that? I think you know I would never leave you by now, and you're probably assumed I'm dead and moved on. I wouldn't blame you if you have. Markarth is a hard place and you'll need all the help you can get, and our son will still need a father. I needed to write this down. I love you. Hjormund. Okay, so that's someone else then. That's sad. Aw, I hope their son's okay. That's sad. Oh. Well, okay. There's no body in here. Like, there's not a dead body. It's just a rat, so I don't know. Let's see. Not this way. Did we still need to go uppies? Yeah, it's still uppies, so let's go up here. Yeah, that's the thing is they probably died a long time ago, honestly.
Please understand. I locked the lake house door to stop you from making the same mistake.
Me? Like me specifically? Oh wait, there's the ghost.
You ignore my words and come searching
Oh, this
for
is
the
creepy.
key.
Oh, he's coming. Oh, he's running. He's a runner. He's a track star. He gotta run away when it gets hard. Okay. Well, that didn't take too long. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He was running. Okay, where's his... Don't I need to loot his body? I guess not. Well, no, is that his body? No, that's just a regular bird corpse. I love the tumbleweed spell. So the vibe, if this is your first Skyrim Sunday of this season, the vibe we're going for with this character is druid. So I wanted a druid vibe. So we've been using tumbleweed a lot, but I need to like use other shit because tumbleweed is kind of OP, low key. Finding me. Okay, this is not where. Oh wait, no, it is right here. Okay. Ah! Huh? Hi there, welcome in, gamer. Thank you so much for the follow. You know, Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. Welcome to whatever the fuck's going on over here. Well, we got the lake house key. Entered the ladies, are we good? All right, time for our field trip check. Are we good? Inigo, check. Vilrossi, here. Say here when I say your name. Sanea, here. Clarissa, here. Misty, here, unfortunately. I think we're all here, except for Lydia, but Lydia will never be here ever again because she fucking died. Confused Coerce Cat Boy. Fuck yeah. Okay. Yeah, oof. Oof. All right, let's check out the Airbnb. I'm gonna keep calling the lake house the Airbnb. You enter an area with some scare cord or another. I love scary cords. Okay, here's the thing. When I was in college, so for those of you who don't know, I'm a music teacher in real life. And I presumably have a music degree, right? And when I was in college doing my like theory classes, I loved like when it was like basic music theory, I was struggling, right? And eventually I figured out like basic music theory. But the best thing I like the most successful I was in my theory classes was when we got to like weird shit like romantic era and like chromaticism and like Schoenberg and stuff like that. Oh, goodbye, Noah. Kill the Arbiter the first time and take his hat. Okay, good to know. Wait, hold on. I need to simp for an object. Look at this quiver. That's a nice quiver. You see that? Oh my god, the quiver has a clitoris right here. You see that? That's so, it's pretty though, but like I saw this, I was like, why does the quiver have a clit? A quit, if you will. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh shit, I'm over cucumbered. Hold on. What can I drop? Can I actually, wait.
I need another rust rub.
Wait, what's going on?
That felt so nice.
Wait. Fuck your breath. What? Sanaya?
What can I do for you?
Are you good?
Let's get going then.
Wait, what is going on here? Why are all my wenches floating? God damn it, Misty! No! Will I float? What's going... Yeah, I'll have what they're having.
These big cities are a great way to earn a little.
I don't want to talk to you.
All right, then.
Okay, are you good?
I'm right behind you.
Are you sure about that? Okay.
Do let me know if I can be of service.
Yeah, you're doing great, sweetheart. Fucking Vilrossi was like, fuck this shit. I'm taking a nap. Good for her. Let's see. I always forget the good berries are just a cure disease potion, so I definitely want to hold on to those. Why do I have 8 skooma? Now is probably not a time to get high. What would happen here? I'm gonna say before I do this. What if I took all my skooma all at once? I kind of want to see what happens. Like, I think it's just gonna be unpleasant, but huh? This edible ain't shit. All right, let's
My letter.
Yeah, the skooma actually did nothing. Am I like affected at all? No. Okay, damn.
My letter.
His letter. Okay. Let's see. Soul gem. Letter.
7 years ago, I discovered this wondrous city uninhabited. Others soon followed, heeding my invitation. and our community grew and prospered under my rule. But as I write this, I am alone once again. For my subjects have been the victims of an unspeakable atrocity.
Oh.
This is why, at the expense of my own life, I must open a portal that will take you into the past.
Oh.
All this began,
I know all about time travel, and that's my thing. That's my
you
shtick.
must go back.
That's my brand.
Investigate what set this atrocity in motion and prevent it by any means necessary.
Okay. I can do that. Does this skooma only affect Khajiit? No, I think it's just like there's like a negative stereotype about Khajiits in skooma. But yeah, I've been high in Skyrim before. Are we gonna stop floating? Like, is this just... I forgot Inigo still doesn't have shoes. Do I have shoes I can give you, bro? No, okay, oh, I should have taken the shoes off that dead guy for... Are you good? Is she just gonna, like... Sanaya? Sanaya, are you good?
I've got your back.
I need you to do something.
All right. What is it?
Let's...
What do you need?
Why don't you come right here?
Okay, got it.
Will she be able to walk if I, like...
Okay, got it. Okay, got it.
There we go. Now she's cooking. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay, all right.
I'm right behind you.
Cool. I just had to get her out of her trance, I had to tell her to attack Misty, which is hilarious, admittedly. Okay, let's go. Sanaya? Sanaya, are you good?
I've got your back.
I think Girlie's broken. Here, let me dismiss her and then...
If you say so. Be careful out there.
Okay, and then...
Hello, friend.
Follow me.
Lead the way.
Hopefully that fixes her. Okay, there we go. I was like, she got uppies from a ghost. She really did. Okay. That was, oh.
Where did you come from?
I just arrived.
Strange. It looks like you just came out
I think the skooma went to the wrong person. Oh, shit. Ad break? Okay. Let me actually take a sip of water then. Okay. Let's see. I don't think Severin would lie. I think he'd be honest. I did. There was a time portal in there which brought me here from the future.
A what?
A what?
Oh, I see. You're a little bit crazy. Well, you're in good company here, my friend. Lots of us weren't thinking straight when we arrived.
What's today's date?
It's the first day of last seed, I believe.
What about, like, the year?
I guess you hit your head pretty hard coming down the shaft, huh? It's the 194th year.
I really had to hold
of
myself
Era,
back from
of
making a
course.
shaft joke, I'm gonna be
Look,
honest.
You seem a little... you know.
What?
So I'll make this
What?
nice and simple
What?
for you.
A little you know what?
Live
A little you know
our
what?
lives, and we'll
Wait, what are you
all
trying
get
to say,
along
Golvar?
just fine.
Huh? What about your laws?
Don't hurt anyone. Don't steal anything. Same as anywhere else.
Okay. The squirt bottle redeemed with all this horny floating about.
Much.
Honestly, you know, we have a squirt bottle for our cat to get him to like not sit on the table. It might not be a bad idea to just give that to David and he can just squirt bottle me whenever I'm being a menace. All right, let's go. I mean, like, here's the thing. He's kind of a dick. I think he was calling me fruity. I'm gonna be honest. But he knows what's up and I don't, so we'll take him with us.
Follow me. So this is our farmland where we grow all the food you'll ever want. As long as all you ever want is leek, cabbage, and potato.
You got a hot
If you
pocket?
have goods, the merchants at the market up ahead will be happy to see you.
Do they have hot
Most
pockets?
of us have few belongings. Just
I like
what
hot
we've brought in
pockets.
with us.
I'm thinking
Morning,
about hot
Golvar.
pockets.
Morning, Yismar.
Hi,
Above us
Yismar.
is the sun under the ground. It's
I'm trying to like
strange
keep
and no
pace with him,
substitute
but
for the
like,
real sun, of course,
what's the walk
but
thing? There we go.
These
Now we're being
days, it
immersive.
doesn't bother me.
Oh, shoot.
What bothers me is the citadel folk. Take Yorman, for
He
example.
walks faster, but I
Sitting
don't.
there on his balcony looking down on us.
Whatever.
Just look at him.
Yeah, you're a really big man, aren't you?
Aren't you going to introduce me to your strapping new friend, Galvar?
Oh, I like her
wait to see
voice.
the
Holy
yard.
shit.
There'll be time for you to get your claws into our friend here later.
I look forward to it. You should come for a drink at my tavern, the Golden Sentinel, tonight. Just about everyone's there after dark.
Am I being flirted with?
Rastasia. She... Well... It's not my place to say. There's
Chat,
enough
am I being
process
flirted
in
with?
this place as it is. It's a small city after all.
Can I get my dick wet?
4 of us at the moment. 23.
Get my
don't
dick
count
wet in the
Anders. It's
pants.
halfway to the next life. Loki's barely managing to keep him alive.
What's his deal? Trying to fucking... God, no. If I walk, it's too slow. But then his walk is... I thought I had a mod that fixed this, but I guess it's not working. Whatever. Alright, who are you? Hi. Oh, hey.
We can talk, but be quick. Domitus could be back any second.
What's going on? I'm gonna keep following him, but I'll talk to you later.
We can talk, but be quick. Domitus could be back any second.
Alright, Citadel. This is where we were earlier before, I think. Here, can I go in? Thank you. God, I hate these stupid ass doors. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, we got that Breaking Bad filter on now. Okay. My name is Walter Hartwell White. I live at number Negra Arroyo Lane, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Did you know that High School Musical and Breaking Bad take place in the same place? Both of them take place in Albuquerque. And given the dates, it's not impossible that High School Musical and Breaking Bad could have taken place at the same time. Who are you, by the way? That's Gaia. Wait, didn't we read about her in a note? I think there was a note that was from her or addressed to her. There was definitely a note with her in it. Huh. Where'd my guide go? To Jarl Metellus? Was it over here? No, that's the city again. I think we lost our guide. God damn it. Let's see. This is the kitchen. It is kind of cool seeing it all like back to normal in a way when we saw it all fucked up, you know? Maybe over here? Blue Math explains all the spontaneous singing in High School Musical. I mean, nah, American high schools are just like that. No. What's going on? Yeah, this is just like all like a normal Jarl's place now. It's not like fucked up at all. I don't, you know, what does it say that the Jarl's like house in the past is more wheelchair accessible than like most places? Because I'm seeing these ramps everywhere. And I think that's very nice, but like, why is a fictional city in Skyrim more ADA compliant than most businesses in America? That's kind of fucked, low-key. Okay. Where's the Jarl? I don't think, oh, are you good? Ah! What? Why am I naked? Okay, that is a very, yeah, we're just gonna, the box was in a very convenient spot. I just wanted to talk to her. I didn't want to get naked.
I think my father's expecting you. Lucky you.
I didn't want to get naked. I'll be going now.
Alright, see you later.
I really just whipped my dick out in front of the Jarl's daughter for shits and giggles. That was, probably not wise of me. Whirling, thank you so much for the 2 months, gamer. You now have 2 PlayStation 2s. Congratulations. But thank you. I hope you're doing well. Oh, thank you. I'm doing great. I just accidentally took my dick out in front of the Jarl's daughter for no reason. So, typical Sunday, really. We're trying to find the Jarl because we had a guide and then we got kind of lost for some reason. No, we haven't. He just got naked out of nowhere. Who's this guy?
The Jarl's waiting.
But welcome in. Thank you, gamer.
On your left.
On your left. Okay. Should we talk to all the NPCs? I think this is the balcony, though. Like, do you guys want me to talk to all the NPCs? Because I noticed they all have, like, a what's your story thing going on.
There's a face I don't.
So if you want me to talk to them, I can.
Welcome to my city.
Hi. Trying to grow your harem again?
Tell me, what is your
You know,
name?
I'm trying to explore the past and feel a cool city out, but I may. Oh, don't push him off the cliff! No. God damn it! She's possessed again. Not this thing. No, one of my wives is possessed again, and now her ass is in my face. I'm severed.
It's always exciting to meet a new member of our small community.
God damn it!
Now, before I forget, since you are here for good,
Why is she possessed?
here's a key to the last vacant chambers down in the city between Brawl.
God damn it!
It's all yours. Now tell me.
I kind of want to just give him a slap. You know what I'm saying? Actually, you sent me here from the future to save this city.
I sent you here.
I'm
not sure what you mean.
I mean, you gave me this note, bro. Here is the letter you're gonna write shortly after the city is destroyed.
Well, let's see.
This is
my handwriting. The victims of an unspeakable atrocity. I will open a portal that will take you into the past. You must go back.
Jesus.
This is
so unserious.
I've even toyed with the idea of creating a portal between.
I feel so bad for anyone who like comes into the stream right now. Like I see. Welcome, Rhodes. Sorry, this is Oh my God.
So tell me, what's going to happen to us?
I don't know, but it was dark and there were burnt corpses everywhere.
That's exactly what I saw when I first discovered this
You're welcome.
years ago. It seems whatever happened then
Oh my
is going to
God.
happen again.
This is prime con. I'm
something
here
to
for you,
do with
gamers.
the
I
dwarves'
got
law.
you.
This is bad. This is very, very bad.
The dwarves' law?
Yes. You see, the dwarves who built this place left inscriptions. Brawl hasn't been able to fully translate them, but we understand some.
I don't know why some of my wenches
This
are being
warning keeps
possessed.
coming up. The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
I
You
can't
think that
focus on what
breaking
he's
the law
saying,
here
bro.
will cause some kind of event. The truth is, I've used the dwarves' law to frighten my people into obedience, and it's worked so far. But someone's about to break that law. Let me think. Your arrival
This is
here
so
is exactly
serious,
what
bro.
I need.
Holy shit.
You've helped me a great deal.
Wow! Wait, did he just no clip through the? What? Did he just? Huh? He didn't. No. Okay. Clarissa.
What can I do for you, friend?
Oh my God. Okay, we're just.
Let me know if there's anything else you need.
God, why do my wives keep getting possessed? Oh, she's just. Oh, she's having a sit. Hi, Trout. My wife is possessed. Oh, this is. What? I kind of wanna.
Still here.
Is she gonna stand up? Wait, I wanna try something.
All right. What is it?
Why not? Like, if she stands up, we'll like. I kind of want to see if she'd push her off. Okay, well, we'll go back over here. I have so many wives, but we're still trying to get more. Okay, we'll tab back over here. Let's all go in here. This is the new thing. Has this ever happened before? Because chat, I think this is the first time this has happened to us. I might need to ask around about this because this is certainly interesting. Is she good? What happened to the other three? Yeah, because we're back in the past now. What? Everything just exploded, and now our wives are gone. Was that supposed to happen? What? Oh, no, no, she almost pushed me up. Okay, yeah, this is interesting. I don't know what to do now. I thought we were just talking to him, just in the middle of talking to him, and then everything exploded. to do now? Well, let's leave the Citadel, I guess. Although, do we need to go in here? Grand Soul Gem, don't mind if I do. Trying to think. Ooh, Master Chest, okay. Yeah, because I'm just like, it just happened during, like, I didn't expect for something like that to happen during dialogue, you know? Was that supposed to happen? Does anyone know? I don't feel like trying. I'll try this again later. And now my wives are like all over the fucking place, bro. This is okay. I don't know. Like I feel like it could be part of the quest, but there's also part of me that's like, did something? Wait, what's that? Oh, I think that's just yeah, that's just one of these things. It just looks really cool now. The where is it? The thingy. I had it. I grabbed something I didn't mean to, but oh yeah, I still have Meridia's beacon. Where is it? This thing. Yeah, we don't need it. Oh! Then the game just crashed. Interesting. This is certainly a stream. This is certainly a stream today. Okay. Well, we will reopen Skyrim, I think. I do need to go get more water, so we're gonna take a quick commercial break while I go get water and get the game going again. But just, hold your horses, gamer. We'll be right back. God damn it. Okay. Okay, I think we're good now. That was unique. Thank you for your patience. That was certainly something. Let's try that again. Cause that was, that's all I'm gonna say for that. But welcome back, gamers. Thank you for your patience. And welcome in, new gamers. I saw some new faces in the chat. Welcome back. The game crashed and some of my wives were, levitating. Not in a Dua Lipa way, in a, like, very possessed way, you know? So, not ideal there. So, I guess that's where, yeah, it still says we need to talk to the guy. Yeah, this is around where, yeah. So, I'm honestly not quite sure if that was supposed to happen in the quest. Because basically, we were in the past, we had time traveled to the past when the city was still, like, cool and swaggy and not fucked up. And we were talking to the guy, and just mid-dialogue, everything exploded. And I deadass am not sure if that was supposed to happen or not. Does anyone know? Because there is part of me that's like, did one of my wives fuck this up for me? Did one of my wives just cast Fireball for funsies and now we're fucked? Like, is that what happened? Because it just happened so fast. I don't know what happened. You know? So, let's go back to the start of the city, I guess. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, this mod is funky. But there was also a hooker, and I kind of wanted to talk to her, but now I can't, so, So I think if we go this way, there should be a way to go down? Yeah, that's all rooms. There should be a hallway somewhere, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's give this a go and see if we can figure out what's going on when we get back to, like, the front of the city, you know? And maybe that's what it was, is we talked to the Jarl, and we were like, we gave him the fourth wall break of giving him the letter that he wrote before his city, like, ate shit and died. And then he was like, whoa, and we exploded. So maybe that was it? Like, we weren't supposed to give him the letter? But we didn't have any other option, you know? Is this the way to go out? I'm not sure. Let's give it a go. Let's see what's going on. Is it that where we came from? No, this is a different balcony. Interesting. But we can go across this way. Let's see. Yeah, the Jarl just ate shit. And, like, honestly, I respect it, but, like, huh? You know? I don't know. Let's see if there's another way to go. Because that left us to, where'd that lead us to? This is someone's room. I don't remember going in this one. I want to see if we can find the bathhouse again. Well, will my character still stripped naked if it's like an old bath? Like it has been used in years? Is this where we came from? I think this is where we came from. Let's go this way instead. We're gonna use the dead corpses as our location markers. Jesus Christ. I like to think he's stream sniping. Wood. I still remember when I was playing Dark Souls. It was like the first time I was playing Dark Souls, and I didn't know that I was supposed to like play offline so people didn't come like invade me and shit, and someone invaded me, kicked my fucking ass, and I was so sad. I was like, why would people do this? What? Yeah, what is this, by the way?
Gaslight,
we can't
keep girl boss.
We can't interact with it. But it's here. Can I like mouse over it? Sleeping tree sap. What? Like I can't punch it. Is there a pony inside of it? It says sleeping tree sap. But welcome to the stream, gamer. You're not Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. That's unique. We'll say that. There's all my wives pulling their swords out at once. Wait, there's a guy here now. There's a dude. There's a dude. Hey. Hey, hey.
Hi there. You gave me a bit of a
It's there to look, not to touch.
I thought I was in here alone.
You're Altries? Your sister asked me to come and find you.
Well, that's a relief. Say, I didn't catch your name.
Severin.
Really? That's strange.
You must have a very oily forehead. That's like the second time.
It was burnt, but the last entry mentioned someone with the same name.
What did it say?
It described an event about 7 years ago. Someone with your
Thank you
name
for the
appeared
hydrate,
in the
gamer.
city out of the lake house. Said hardly a word to anyone. Walked up to the Jarl and murdered him. Breaking some kind of ancient law. It said this triggered a horrific event.
I try to
killed
like
everyone
call
in the
people
city.
by like the first word in
While
their
the
names, but
stranger
the first
just
word in your name is
disappeared
ugly, and that just
in a flash
sounds
of
really mean. So I'm really sorry, but I don't just want to be like, thank you, ugly, because that just sounds really rude. That was me, also.
I'm not sure I understand.
Well, when I first, yeah, that was the dead guy. That was the dead guy. Well, when I first arrived here, I found your corpse hanging from a tree.
I'm sorry, come again?
I still have your suicide. God, that's dark. That's fucked up. Can you imagine? Like, you meet this person, it's like, hey, hi, how are you? Hey, here's your suicide unalive note. That's fucked up. What the fuck?
Let me see. Gods. This is my
Oh my
handwriting.
god, that would fuck me up. That's
I've
like,
spent a lifetime
that's
in
like
this
crisis
place,
call to my
going
therapist
around
fucking
and
me up.
around in circles. This is horrible.
Have you taken your
I don't
Wellbutrin
understand how I
today?
could have written it.
Did you take your Prozac today? It was written by a different version of you. The one where you don't take your fucking Prozac. By the way, gamers, take your meds if you haven't already. I actually don't think I've taken my meds. We're gonna do that while we're in dialogue. Let me just
not sure I understand.
take my meds real quick. When I killed the Jarl, yeah, what was that me killing the Jarl? I don't think that was me killing the Jarl, because it was just kind of like it was just an explosion. I stopped him from opening this time portal. What? When was that? What?
So.
Well, it's a
you're
bit too late
saying
for my ADHD medicine,
because you
but that's
stopped
okay.
a time portal from being opened, I never went through it, and that's why I don't remember any of this.
What if you giving the note is him the action that caused the unaliving? No, that's fucked up.
I guess you saved my life then. But look at all the death and destruction you've caused.
Now, what does that have to do with
There
me?
must have been another way. And now you and I are going to have to live with the
They gave me one dialogue option, buddy. What do you want me to do with that? Huh?
I almost wish you'd just let me die.
Jesus Christ. All right, are you ready to get out of here?
I've been ready to get out of here from the moment I set foot in this place.
I'm gonna need your attitude to perk up a little bit, bud. Like, you're being very negative right now, and, oh, actually, I shouldn't say that given the context of what happened. No, Warlick, no, please don't kill yourself. I just need you to be a little bit more, Yeah, there's no way I can phrase this without me looking like an asshole. Yep, okay, I deserve that. Any ideas on how we can escape?
I have one idea. There might be a way out through the bathroom, through the pipes that bring water into the city.
Okay.
There's a cracked wall. I'm not strong enough.
There's Sanea.
But I think if you hit it really hard with a mace or a warhammer...
Have you seen me?
you
I'm
might
a
be able
twink,
to
dude. I've got
escape through
squiggly
there.
little arms.
It's
Well,
this
my
way.
wives probably could. All right, lead us to the bathroom. Sanea, where are you going? Okay, she's got a mind of her own. All right, good for her. And let's go through here. And I guess this is where the bathroom is. Oh God, I hope I don't accidentally get naked again. Oh, it's gonna be really awkward if like we're having like a moment of getting out and escaping together, and then I just whip my dick out. That's gonna be really, yeah. Now this is tipped over. Huh? All right. Where's the bathroom? You'd be such a bottom. She makes the floor look like a ceiling. Shut up. Wait, where'd my guy go?
Girl
See, man,
boss.
thank you so much for the follow. You're not gaslight gatekeep girl boss. I need to find a bathroom, not in real life, but in game. But welcome to the stream. Where'd the guy go? Also, this lighting. Wait, look at this. Oh, look at the way it reflects off her shield. That goes hard. What he said? Yeah, smash the cracked wall in the back room. Where? Back room. The bathroom. Where is that? Is this? No, this is the. Oh, wait. Steel plate. Shrine of Zenithar. We're looking for boots, by the way, because Inigo still has his fucking dogs out. So we definitely need to get him boots. Actually, do you have arm things? Yeah, you do have arm things. Okay. Geico? There's an iron mace. We might need that, but now I'm over encumbered. I don't need, Soon's Judgment. Why do I have that? Well, probably because it looks cool as shit. Why are you so short? Shut up! Let's see. I do need to get, why do I have this ingot? I don't need that. Why do I have this ingot? I don't need it. I don't need this leather. Get rid of it. Okay, there we go. The way it all just fell. Okay. I don't know where the dude went. Like, he went in here, right? Like, he opened the door, and now he's just... If this ends up being like a Doki Doki Literature Club type thing where it's like, I slowly open the door, I'm gonna shit my pants. Your dude's an elf, right? Yeah, you just can't see it because he's got the armor on, but he's got the little earsies. I also thought you said you were looking for booba. The word that you use to describe boobs that starts with T has been banned, so I have to say booba. So I very well could have been talking about booba, but you never know, honestly. I'm always looking for booba. Y'all know me. Here's the thing, is like, sometimes I get raided, right? And like, when you raid someone, I feel like I'm supposed to have like a catchphrase I'm supposed to say, like, hi, I'm EB Games, blah, 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 blah. But I haven't been able to come up with a good one, you know? And like, how do I describe my content in one sentence? Like, do I just say like, hi, I'm EB Games, woman enjoyer? Because I feel like half my brand is just that, honestly. Like, I feel like I shouldn't say that. Like, I feel like, I don't know, you know, like, what the fuck do I say? Oh yeah, I did say boots. I did say boots. I mean, we can get him boobs too if he wants, you know. But, I don't think, well, you never know. Khajiit Booba could be interesting. Never experienced that before. Yeah, he went through this way, didn't he? Hi, I'm EB Games. I play games like an ape and look for Booba religiously. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know, you know? But I think I just scream a lot. And every time I get raided, it's always at a time where something weird's going on anyway. So kind of EB Games, Cock Destroyer, and Tata Enjoyer. True. The federal boob inspections. I have mental issues and I like just some booty. True, actually. That's all true. These are all good options. Oh my gosh. Okay, so where's the fucking bathroom? Like, can you imagine, like, having to take a shit and you gotta, like, you ever have, like, imagine you've got, like, diarrhea and you're about to go blow a toilet up and you gotta, like, run through those, like, steep ledges? Oh, my God. I would shit my pants. Oh, like, come on! Come on! Don't shit you! Look, it's back to back! Oh, that's foul. That's foul. Oh, shit. This is Twitch. Have class. What do you mean? Blow the toilet up? I'll fuck that toilet up, bro. Okay, that requires a key. Okay. Where's the shitter? I'm going to shit my pants. Oh, here it is. Wait, am I gonna get naked again even though everyone's dead? Okay. That answers that question. I was just curious. No, don't get naked again. Okay, your local unhinged gremlin woman enjoyer VTuber. True. I mean, listen, sometimes... Okay, where's the... Oh, here he is. Sometimes you have a shit that's so crazy you just gotta get naked for it. Like, you ever take a shit so awful you gotta, like, take a bath afterwards? You gotta take a shower because you're just like, damn. That's fucked up. Like, so that's how it be sometimes, you know? I got IBS, so sometimes... I don't know, it used to be so bad that sometimes I would have IBS flare-ups, like, in college, and I'd have to, like, I'd literally, like, be in the waiting room ready to go to class, and then I'd have a flare-up, and I'd miss the entire class because I was, like, shitting for a straight 90 minutes. It was awful. And then I had to, like, walk back to my dorm room, and it was fucking awful, bro. Okay, so is this the thing? I guess so, okay. Listen, bro, if you're watching my stream at work, like we said, right? EB Games cannot be held legally responsible if you listen to this stream with no headphones. You're very welcome to this stream. Sorry you had to hear me talk about shitting my pants. You know, I guess I can't keep girl boss. Wahoo! Okay. Oh, the other wall broke? Wait, what? Where's the... Oh, is this it? Oh, crawl through broken pipe. Okay. All right. Thank you for the posture check, Floof. I'm stretching. Oh God, if I get naked again, I'm gonna scream. Okay, I'm not where you can be heard by people that care. Oh, thank God. Okay. Ah! I didn't mean to do that. No, no. No. Fuck. Thank you, Clarissa. Wait, what? That would no. Bro, let me up. no clip back up? I probably could. How do I, wait, so just, hold up. How do I do that? I'm trying to figure, let me, I gotta get my lay of the land. Yeah. You wanna come with me, bro? Come on, just guys being dudes. It's not gay as long as our balls don't touch. Come on, man. Alright, can I just, what is it? What's the no clip thing? TCL, here we go. Alright. Whee! I don't think I can no clip my way back up. Wait, did I enable it? Wait, I still have the tree. It was still selecting on the tree sap. No, okay, how do I, oh, God, okay. Can I just, TCL, collision. What? Mouth is a mouth, true. Okay, we'll just walk all the way up there. It's fine, it's fine. You still... Oh my god. Oh shit. Well, it worked. No, that's not, I'm not blaming the mod pack. I'm just stupid. That was definitely user error. Oh my god. Okay. Well, it worked out though. It seems like it worked out. Yeah, this is, oh yeah, I'm doing this all on purpose just for entertainment reasons.
Thank you so much
you
for
know?
bringing him back in
I actually know what I'm doing. This is all just part of the bit. It's all part of my entertainment,
I can't
you know?
thank you
know?
enough.
You're welcome.
Now, I promised you a reward. This
There's
is
not
something
bull.
I always
We'll not
carried
take this
with me,
libel.
and it's become very dear to me.
Who the fuck is mining in the background?
Thanks again. My brother and I are in your debt.
Yeah, no problem, sugar tits. Okay. That's it! That's it? I thought there was so much more to that mod.
There is.
Ah! That's it?
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
Well, then just, thank you to welcome to the stream. Thank you to the follow. You know, I guess I can keep girl boss. All right, let's read this journal because I don't remember it being that short.
You get to the cloud.
I skipped the mod. Oh, Morley, thank you so much for the 100 bits. That was a good joke. No, thank you, thank you, gamer. How did I skip the mod? Is it because the Jarl blew up? I didn't mean to speed run anything. Hi, Fairy. I accidentally speed ran a mod. Yeah, I remember there being multiple quests.
Okay, hold on. You talked to the Jarl, right?
David, can you come here?
Yeah.
David, come here.
You talked to the
We need
Jarl,
support.
right?
Yeah, here's what happened, okay? I was talking to the Jarl, right?
Yeah.
And mid-conversation, I blew up.
Okay.
Was that supposed to happen?
One of your followers, or you, or someone you were talking to, broke the Dwemer's law and caused the apocalypse. So yes.
How'd they do that?
By breaking the law and hurting somebody. One of your followers whacked the Jarl for some reason.
My bitches caused the apocalypse. No.
Then you never went back. You never went back in time again after.
I didn't know how to do that.
But you never went to talk to the Jarl again.
Yeah, because I was back in time.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get back.
Okay.
I couldn't go back to the
think
future.
I think the
or to the
crash
past.
sequence broke the quest.
God damn it. Okay.
Because there is this entire, like, you're supposed to run through it
Yeah.
a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you sequence broke it and broke the scripting. Because Skyrim is built on a 20-year-old engine that is totally up to modern standards.
I just think it's funny that my bitches caused the apocalypse.
Yeah, so
my bitches have a body count. No. I mean, well, yeah.
If you want to do the quest,
Mm-hmm.
reload to before everything.
Oh my god.
Send all of the bitches home.
I
And then do it.
Oh my god. All right, chat. Are we committing to this? Are we fixing it? Chat. Here's the decision we have to make. Are we saying fuck it and moving on, or are we reloading, committing, and finishing this fucking quest tonight? What are we sending the bitches home? It's like one of the best mod quests. All right, we're committing. We are committing.
The issue is that your followers will see that they go to like a negative like disposition towards you and think it's time to fight and then cause the world to end.
That's really funny. That's really fucking funny. Okay, so here's what we'll do. All right, we're gonna reload. All right, we're in this now. All right, here's what I'm saying. We're not ending stream until we finish this quest line. I'm holding to it, okay? We are going back. Okay, Lake House, Skyrim. We're going all the way back here, okay? Okay, we are sending the bitches home. The bitches get to take a break. Thank you for hydrate. Well, that takes 5 hours. Then it takes 5 hours. It takes whatever it takes. Okay, we're doing it. We're doing this fucking quest tonight. We're committing to the bit. Okay. All right. Wenches, you gotta go.
Eyes up here, love.
You gotta go. I need you to leave. Okay. I don't really need to track your every move. Yeah, I don't.
Huh?
Let's see. This is where we part ways.
That's all right. I think you'll probably miss my big tips, though.
I won't.
Return to me if you change your mind.
Okay. All right, Inigo?
My friend, Skyrim is a big and often confusing
Oh, they're doing this thing again.
place.
Jesus Christ.
We are bound
Is there another save I can go to that's not as... Yeah, this is... Okay, this is...
each other from time
This
to
is
time.
exactly where we started the stream. Holy shit.
The map you have is special. Got to go. Yes, my friend.
Okay, it's time for us to part ways.
Okay, be safe. I will be in Riften if you need me.
Inigo is the only sane person here. All right, let's read Misty's letter just to get it out of the way so we're like fully caught up. And then, oh, where was it? It was the R something was the guy's name. Or was it? The Titty Twister Diary. I forgot about that. How's God Jetmir? He's doing okay. He's getting his balls cut off next week, so, you know. Keep him in your thoughts. Safe travels for his balls as they go to the next life. You know, we're getting him fixed, essentially. Yeah, I don't know where the note is. We'll deal with that later. All right.
I am a lonely traveler, traveling through this land. I have traveled through
The icy caves and over scorching sands. Oh, he's so cute. Yeah, I have a cat. I have a cat named Jetmir. And he's kind of a menace, but we love him for it. If you are subbed, you should have access to the Jetmir channels where I post about my cat quite a lot. I need to start posting in there again because it used to be back when I was still like doing starry skies and had an adventure too. I've traveled the world from end to end to sing this song to you. Yay!
Feel free to tag along if you want, my friend.
I love him so much, bro. Okay, let me enable Forgotten City because I don't think I have it. Here we go. These are the Forgotten Ruins, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm in the right path. So, do I have any wenches still with me? We'll check when we're there. But yeah, I need to start posting there again. Because I was just so busy. I forgot to post Jetmir photos, but I will start posting Jetmir photos in there again. I apologize. I feel really bad just because I'm so busy and I want to do more for the people. Oh, that's a dog. Okay. I thought that was like a wolf going to attack that fucking child and was about to be like, oh no, uh-oh. But yeah, okay. Well, good night, Fairy. Thank you so much for coming by and saying hi. Okay, so let's go. Were we at the Bone Zone? I think that's where we were. Okay, so we're gonna need to go. Yeah, if I recall correctly, we just no-clipped up a mountain to get there the first time. So I guess that's what we'll do again. Time to no-clip. I think I still have some wenches with me, but we'll say bye to them once we're there, I think. It's just those two were like the closest to me. Okay. We'll go. Oh shit, the game is like having a time. Okay. Let's go over here. And we'll just go around that mountain and towards the other mountain. Yeah, they'll show up eventually. Okay. And then, all right, Clarissa, I need you to go.
Is there some way I can assist you?
I think it is time for us to part ways, unfortunately. I love you, though.
I'll catch up with you later. Take care.
God, she's so hot! Okay,
Can I help you?
Oh, she's so hot, too.
I'll catch up with you later. Take care.
Thank you. Oh, they're so hot. You're so hot. Hey, what happened? I think my wife is at home, by the way.
Very well. Take care.
She's so cute. Okay. All right. This is a journey I must take alone, my bitches. I'm sure you understand. Oh boy. Okay. There's the courier with his heart on that he told us about. Oh, there's Misty. Wonder what she's gonna be up to while we're gone. Probably nothing kosher. Gonna say that now. Hey. Alright, let's work our way back over here. And hopefully... Whoa. Hey! Hey! Oh my god, Misty's going ham! Did you see that shit? Holy shit, Misty! Oh my god, did you see that? Holy fuck! He went, are you okay? Are you good?
Need something?
Are you alright? Oh, what do you have for sale?
Take a look.
Oh. I don't... okay, interesting. Do you want drugs? Have some drugs. You've been through it.
All right then.
Oh shit, I'm a drug dealer now. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Hey, what's that? Wait, hold on. What the fuck is that? What? What is it? I know we're doing the quest and we are, but what is that? Oh, it's a Dwemer Ruin. Okay, it looks cool, but fuck Dwemer Ruins. Okay. I say as we're about to do a Dwemer Ruins quest. Just don't think too hard about that, okay? Alright. That was, well, I didn't mean to be a drug dealer, but I live a life of crime now. That is the way. Alright, let's go back over here. I think I was like on the right path, and then I think I promptly got off of it to go look at a thing. And that's, if that doesn't encapsulate my ADHD, I don't know what does. Okay, let me up. Let me up. Was there someone in the water? I thought I saw it. Misty, where are you going? Where the fuck is she going? Like, what? Where is she going? Okay, that's unique. Alright. Alright, there's that bear. Okay, let me... Oh shit, okay. Here, let me, alteration. I'm gonna need... Here, we're gonna definitely need a friend. Call Raven, isn't there one that's like a, Earth Totem? Yeah. We'll use our Earth Totem, okay? Shit. Oh, I don't have enough magic. Shit. Oh my god, Misty's going ham again! God, she's going crazy. Okay. Good for her. I respect it. Good for her. That's wild. Okay. Alright, this way.
Gaslight.
Right. I think we're going the right way.
Girl boss.
Hi, X. Welcome to the stream. You're now on Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. We are doing all of Forgotten City in one night, which isn't that impressive, but it is. But we broke the quest the first time. All of my wenches. My wenches accidentally caused the end of the world, which, you know, just girly things. Me and the girls causing a canon event. But I think we can do it, okay? We just need to go alone and not accidentally trigger something that causes the end of the world. Easy peasy, right? Easy fucking money. Easy fucking money. Okay, should be right over here. Because it's by the waterfall, right? Yeah. Helping out a buddy. Bro, Misty Skye was hitting hard. She absolutely went off. Okay, I think we have to go over here. Oh, why are you still with me?
Farewell.
It's like she's still following me. Is she following me? Because I'm a little worried, actually. Because if she's, like, following me but not following me, she could keep causing the end of the world and we won't be able to finish the quest. Oh, Jesus. Hi, Zaku! Welcome! She's a confused attack dog. I mean, relatable, but, you know. Let me just, do this real quick. Oh, my God. Okay, yeah, she's just standing there. Menacingly. Okay, I need to get over... Oh, wait, no. That's where it is. Okay, there we go. We are on the right path. Okay. Don't die to fall damage, Evie. That is your next quest. Don't die to fall damage. Okay. Alright, we're gonna kind of speed through what we already did. Whee! Yay. Okay. And then we'll kind of see where that puts us. But now I know what to do, at least. Now I know what to do. Jeez. Okay. Alright. Meet Cassia there. Oh, Robinson, thank you so much for the posture check. Stretch. Alright, we're going to kind of skip through a dialogue because we have already done it before. But we know the dealio now. Okay, we know the dealio. Alright, Misty Skye better not be here, right? Okay, it looks like we're in the clearing. Alright, hi.
That's close enough.
I'm 7.
Count on you. Now quickly, go.
Alright. Haul! Cool. Okay, so what are we doing? Get rid of all these so I don't get confused. Okay, explore the Forgotten City for a way out. Okay. We're just gonna speed through the first part and see if we can get back to where we were. Okay? We should probably save a little bit. Well, no, it auto-saves. Alright. Dead guy. We're not gonna read the suicide note because we already know what that is. I think we had to go through... Actually, no, we probably should because it'll give me pointers to other stuff. Alright, he's gonna talk about other stuff.
I am so sorry you had to find
Lake
me
house.
like this.
We need to go up to the Citadel, I think. Which
you will
is...
share my fate.
No! No!
I spent a lifetime in this place, going around in circles, searching for a way out.
Misty! Misty!
Two choices.
Eyes up here, love.
Oh my god.
See.
I need you to leave! Huh?
I made the mistake of opening
God.
that door.
We'll spawn her back later. We'll spawn her back later.
I found the right one, but
Jesus Christ. I'm telling you, she's stalking me! She's stalking me!
Lake house.
Okay, do I need to go... Oh wait, we didn't see this the first time. Hold up, what's this?
Death. I urge you to
Notice.
learn from my mistakes.
Sarah's not safe. Enter at your own risk.
Best to take your own life now and find out what awaits you beyond that door.
What's this? We didn't see this the first time.
I've locked it and hidden the key. I'll guard it with my eternal soul if I have to. But I fear...
What is this? Okay, not going that way. Not going that way. Alrighty. Alrighty then. Okay. Alright. Retrieve the lake house key on the Citadel balcony. Okay, Citadel's over here, I believe. Yeah, because there's the dude. Alright, I'm just very directionally challenged. Y'all gotta be patient with me. it really was... I feel it. What if Misty's, like, secretly God or some shit? Like, Misty, I feel like... That's, like, such a... Like, that's so crazy. Can you imagine, like, an absolute eldritch horror god abomination masking as, like, a prostitute? That's nutty, okay? Someone write that into their, like, Pathfinder D&D setting, okay? Absolute fucking town whore is secretly, like, the god creator of the world. I would read the fuck out of that, okay? Alright, here we go.
Shoes once.
Here we go. Is that a thing already?
It's a goddess.
Well, that's nice. It's sanguine. Well, good for her. Good for her. Yeah, sure. I don't give a shit.
It seems like a
I'm just speed running through it.
yet
Is this the balcony? I don't think so.
death was the better option all along.
I think we have one more staircase up. Yeah, okay. Here we go. On the 7th day, God went to Hooters and had a revelation.
Understand.
And on the 3rd day,
The lake house door to
the
stop
titties. I said the banned word. Okay, to be fair, I went like an hour without saying titties. I think that's pretty impressive. Okay, now we need to kill the ghost. So we can't use this right now. I want to do more stuff that's like, yeah, unfavorite these. Druidcraft, Let's do just this one for now. We'll keep it simple. Alright. These little...
You're making a mistake.
Alright. Oh, wait. We could have looted him for like a split second. I just wanted to read what was going on first, but then his body disappeared. Interesting. Okay, here we go. We're not gonna have any wenches cause the end of the world this time, okay? Alright. Whee! Oof. Okay. I didn't even realize it like sat my HP down to like 0. Okay. Enter the lake house. Here we go. Alright. Once we find the Jarl again, we'll be caught up. But I'm trying to kind of do this as fast as possible. Because I do want to do all this shit with this quest. But we did already see a good chunk of it, you know? Hi. Alright. Lake house, lake house, lake house, lake house, lake house. There we go. Kind of hungry. We might do an ad break in like 3 minutes just so I can get a snacky. I'm gonna be real with you. Okay. That's the note.
I
Take that.
discovered this wondrous city uninhabited. Others soon followed, heeding my invitation, and our community.
Alrighty. Whoa. Bright. Now we out here. I'm probably gonna honestly have a, we went to this new restaurant and they had a little like banana pudding you could buy, little platters of it, so I might have some bites of my banana pudding. I've just arrived.
Strange. It looks like you just came out of the Jarl's private lake house.
I got lost. I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, well, just make sure you don't get lost in anyone else's home.
Alright, we're gonna speed through this real quick. We've done this, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. Let's go.
Follow me.
Actually, I'm just gonna do this. I should have done the go your own way, but we're just gonna... We got this. We'll figure it out. Alright. Hello, hello. It does look really pretty. I do like the way everything looks, I'll be honest. Okay, there's the whore lady. And then over here. That's right. Okay. It does have a unique aesthetic to it, and that I do like. Hi. Hi. Alright. Whoa. Okay. Let's go find the Jarl, and let's make sure nothing explodes. So once we finish talking to the Jarl, we're good. We just need to get that far, and then we're good. Okay? Yeah. Upsies. So let's go uppies. I think it's at the end of the hallway.
You wouldn't want to keep the Jarl waiting, would you?
No. Not particularly. Okay. That's a dude's room. Okay. Wrong way. I think I passed the staircase, actually. I think I was being a little silly. Whoopsie. Not there. Not there. Because I know we need to go. There we go. Okay. Uppies! Uppies, 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 uppie, 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 uppie. Alright. Let's go. This way? No. This way? No. This way? No. This way! Yes, okay. Alright. I'm running like I got a shit. Just like we talked about, chat. Just like we talked about. Alright, let's go. I think it should be right up here. I think this is the last set of stairs. Cool. Okay. Ooh. Ooh, okay. Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. Okay. Here we go. Alright. Let's make sure we're gonna save and make sure nothing explodes this time. We're not gonna accidentally cause the apocalypse this time, okay? Okay. Jesus. Jesus Christ. Okay. Let's see what's going on. Hi.
There's a face I don't
Alright.
recognize.
I'm stepping.
Always.
You sent me here.
I sent you here.
There's a letter.
Well, this is my but that's odd. My letter.
Okay, I think this is right where we were when things blew up.
The disaster. I suppose I was in a hurry. So tell me, what's going to happen to us?
I don't know, but it was dark and there, yeah.
That's exactly what I saw when I first discovered this place, several years ago. It seems whatever happened then is going to happen again.
Well, we don't want that,
I think
do
it
we?
has something to do with the dwarves' law. This is bad. This is very, very bad.
What's the dwarves' law?
Yes. You see, the dwarves who built this place left inscriptions. Brawl hasn't been able to.
Oh, was that the thing we saw, like, by the hole? Was that one of them?
Some parts. This warning keeps coming up. The many shall suffer for the sins of the one. We think that breaking the law here will cause some kind of event. The truth is,
should I like dump out my skooma then?
Frighten my people into obedience, and it's worked so far. But someone's about to break that law. Let me think.
It's not me.
Your arrival here is
I'm a good noodle.
exactly
I'm in my
what
good
I
noodle
need.
arc.
You've helped me a great deal by bringing this note to my attention. I wonder if you could do me another favor.
Yeah, what's up?
I need you to investigate the city, talk to my people, help them, if it'll win their trust. You can even go through their possessions, if you have to. You must work out who is going to break the dwarves' law.
Oh,
Once you
boy,
have
I'm a cop
come
now.
back and tell me immediately.
Okay,
As Jarl, I
we're
authorize
investigating.
you to go anywhere you need to go, including private homes. But
Okay.
if someone asks you to leave, you should do
Oh,
so
jeez.
immediately.
So if I give him the wrong name, we're fucked, okay? If I help you, will you get me back to my own time and out of the city?
I can't promise either of those things, but I will certainly do everything within my power to help you once you've helped my people.
He does kind
of course, if you decide to stay,
He does kind of sound
I
like
would
Sir
make
Patrick
sure
Stewart.
You enjoy a comfortable life here. Now, what do you say? Will you help me?
Sure. What if you say no? Will it just explode then?
Thank
Like,
you.
I'm gonna do it, but, you know.
You mustn't tell anybody where you're from or what may be about to happen here. People do foolish things when they panic. If
True.
it helps you,
Your mom
you're
sounds
welcome
like
to
Sir
borrow
Patrick.
the
That'd be
book
cool
from
as
my
shit,
desk.
though. Welcome in,
It
Kula.
contains the names and addresses of my subjects. Just don't show it to anyone.
Okay.
Goodbye for now, and good luck. I don't need to tell you what will happen if you fail.
Alright. Well, that's certainly a big burden to carry. Alrighty then. Let's see what happens then. Alrighty. So, we're gonna take a quick break just so I can get my snack real quick. And then we will figure out what the fuck is going on, which will be something. So, we're gonna take a quick little break, and then I'll get a snack, and then we will finish up this quest. Yeehaw! Boop! Boop, boop! Okay, I have eaten my snack and I'm ready to go. Let's give it... Let's give it our all, okay? Alright, so... How are we... I guess we're just gonna have to talk to everybody then, you know? And see who's the most like... I'm autistic. I am not a good judge of character. Well, I don't know. This is gonna be rough. Hi, Combat! Empire Stormcloaks. I usually go Empire, personally. I try not to do the Civil War, because I honestly think both of them are kind of garbage in different ways. But if I have to choose, I usually go Empire. Alright, what do you think?
Got my eye on ya.
What's your story?
What?
What?
Did you say something to me?
I did. What's your story?
No use talking to me, young'un. Can't hear a word you're saying. Both me ears went years ago. Still got my one good eye, though. All I need. Used to be a vigilant Ostender till I slipped up. You take it from me. You ever find yourself toe-to-toe with a flame Atronach, you make sure you put some distance between you before you kill it. Otherwise, whoosh. Eyes, ears, and hair gone. All at the same time.
That's rough, buddy. So why does the Jarl need a guard if there's the Dwarves' Law?
Sorry, young'un. No idea what you're saying.
Do you know a way out of here?
Didn't catch a word. And I'll be honest, being deaf ain't half so bad as you'd think. No one bothering you, asking questions.
I don't think it's this guy. I'm gonna be honest.
Can't hear ya.
Yeah. I feel like, should we like take notes on everyone? Because we have to talk to like everyone in the city, right? Should we be taking notes? I feel like, let's take notes. Let's take notes. Okay, we're gonna open up, I'm gonna open up MS Paint and we'll have a note page we'll occasionally look at together. Okay, so we got, let's see, let me open MS Paint. Okay, so first guy that we don't think it is, and because I'm not gonna remember names. Sato, deaf guy / guard. Deaf, not him. Okay? Not him. Alright. Let's keep going. We'll take notes just in case. Alright, why aren't you wearing shoes?
Nice to see someone in the Citadel who isn't an
Oh, you're the hot lady. What's your story?
Well, as you know, the Jarl is my father. Or, at least, that's what he tells people. What he doesn't tell anyone is that I'm adopted. And the worst part is, I don't even know why he adopted me in the first place.
Oh my God!
He doesn't seem to care about me at all. Sometimes I feel more like his prisoner than his daughter. If we weren't trapped in here, I'd run away in a heartbeat.
Gaslight,
Damn!
gatekeep, girl boss.
Unicorn, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the stream. You're not Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girl Boss. Damn! Your father sounds very controlling.
Oh, he really is. He's always telling everyone what to do. I don't know how everyone puts up with him. Did you know he calls this place his Citadel?
I mean, he seemed pretty nice to me.
Don't do any work. Everything gets done by the people down in the city. He'll probably try to make you work for him too. But don't just do whatever he says. People around here should really learn to stand up to him.
Okay. Do you know a way to get out of here?
You know my father would be upset to hear you ask that. I love it. Me, I'm not even allowed out of the Citadel. I'm so bored. Father doesn't want me mixing with the common folk. He's all, why don't you read one of the books Gaia brought you? Books? I'm almost 18. I want to have fun, like normal girls my age. Or do anything to take my mind off where I am. I thought about getting one of those awful Nord tattoos. Father would hate that. But then that bitch Asanchi told me about her skooma habit.
Oh my gosh, she is going in!
Oh, but if I get some, I just know I could get that junkie to spill her guts.
Shani was is on skooma then, huh? Actually, wait, hold on. I kind of want to save before we do this, actually, because thank you for the yeet, whoever that came from. Because I think, would that constitute breaking the law? That's what I'm thinking. So, okay. This could go badly, but... Yeah, okay. So, her deal... Okay. So, Dormora, adopted daughter of the Jarl. Okay. Giving you a heads up for redeem. Thank you, gamer. Let's see. For this, it means just like try to kill someone. Okay. Upset. You know, we're just gonna teen angst. That's all that's going on. Oh shit. And then what was the name? Ashanti Skooma? I don't know if that was even her name, but we'll find out. I don't think that was her name. It was something like that. Okay. Let's try giving her the skooma and we'll see what happens. Cause I don't think we took all the skooma on our last day, but I think when we redid it, I think we still have all our skooma. Okay? Alright, here, let's try this again. I have skooma.
You got some.
Ashanti.
Well done.
Okay.
Now, take it down to Ashanti in the kitchen and see if you can squeeze her for information. It'll be hilarious.
Okay. You are a very problematic child, but okay. It was Ashanti. Okay, Ashanti. I'm gonna... Ashanti. Okay. Let's do that. Alright. I have to take notes or I'm gonna forget this shit. I'm not gonna remember. And I feel like I need to remember this shit. You know what I mean? Okay. Let's go bring skooma to people, I guess. Okay, that's the bathhouse. Let's see. This needs a key, right? So we can't go in there because we don't have the key. Ashanti, what was her job? Was she the cook or something? We'll see. But apparently she's a skooma slut, I guess. Good for her. And if we give this to her, she'll give us some stuff. But breaking the law just means to, like, kill someone? Okay. So we're trying to uncover an assassination plot then, essentially. Are you Ashanti?
I'm a little busy, but what do you need?
What's your story?
Why, you think if you butter me up, I'll start making food for you, too?
Yeah.
Forget it.
Oh.
My kitchen's for Citadel residents only. Go make your own food.
I just want to talk to you.
Well, fine. My story? I'm the Citadel cook. In this life. Not exactly how I thought my life would end up. But it's better than it was on the surface.
What was your life like on the surface?
That. Seems like a long time ago. I had a very easy life for myself in Markarth. Married to a silver merchant. Maybe it was a little too easy. I was bored. A lot. Started looking for something to do. A friend introduced me to skooma. It was fun. For a while. But you know how it goes.
Honestly, that's the thing. When you live in, like, middle of bumfuck nowhere places like that, people will just do drugs to pass the time.
My easy life.
Like, dead ass.
Then I found myself...
In my hometown, we had a really big, like, opioid problem, and it's literally because, like, the only things there were to do was do drugs, fuck, and go to Walmart. We had, like, nothing to do in the sticks.
Keep it away from me. So when I found the entrance to this place, I knew what I had to do. Haven't touched the stuff since.
Oh, no!
Still get the cravings. Sometimes I'd kill for one last bottle.
I don't want to give her drugs. She's
about it down here.
She's doing her best. I don't want to. Do we have to? I don't want to do that. Well, if we have to, we'll come back to that. But I don't want to do that.
I got myself trapped in here for a good reason. No way I'm going back up there. So no, I don't know a way out, and I wouldn't want to know.
I don't want to. I don't know. That just feels awful.
See you later.
You know, like even for me, I will be giving away drugs. I don't know. Like I shit post a lot, and like I do fucked up shit for the bit. But like giving drugs to a recovering addict, that's where I'm like, that's not even funny. That's just fucked. Like I don't want to do that. If it's part of the quest, I'll do it. But. I know. There are ways to, a lot of ways to finish this, but none of them really leave you feeling like the good guy. Great. Okay. Fantastic. But welcome in, gamer. Let's see if there's anything else in the Citadel to explore. So, Asanji is our recovering drug addict. She's done so well. She's made a life for herself doing, you know, something else. And she's been clean for, that's fucked, bro. Alright, anywhere else we can explore before we go back to the actual city? Is there anything over here? Anyone in here for me to talk to? Doesn't look like it. Okay, let's go back down here. And we'll just kind of work our way through before we go back to the whole last city, you know? Alrighty. We got a lot of people to talk to. Let's see. Is it only... Well, yeah, I guess it is just one person trying to end the world then. So for everyone who just joined, we are playing through the Forgotten City quest line. And the bit is we've been trapped in a city, lost in the past, and that city, when we found it, was really fucked up. Oh, I want these boots for my cat, but... It was, like, absolutely obliterated. So we go back in time to try and save the city from destruction, and what's causing the city to blow up is people breaking the dwarves' law. So we basically have to find who's going to break the law and stop them. Welcome in! Yeah, it's real fucked up. So I don't want to... One of the ways we can do that, apparently, is by giving drugs to a recovering addict. And listen, I do a lot of fucked up shit, but even I have lines. I'm like, I don't want to do that. So we're going to talk to everyone. We've literally been deadass taking notes because I'm afraid I'm not going to remember everything. We're going to see what the fuck's up.
Oh, look. I have a visitor.
This place has many endings. That's what David told me. So we'll see what's going on. So you're Marius. What's your story?
My story? It's about a quiet man who preferred to keep to himself. Short and sharp.
Do you know a way out of here?
Yes, I do. Death. Death is the only way out of here.
He's giving me real school shooter energy, gonna be honest. He's definitely a little sus.
You do that.
But I feel like this is bait. You know what I mean? I feel like Marius or Marius, whatever the fuck you say, I feel like he's bait. Okay, so Asanji, skooma addict, slash cook lady, Marius, school unaliver vibes, probs bait. I think like it's too easy if that were him, honestly. I don't think it's him. That's bait. That's bait. Let's see. Anyone else? I think that's it in terms of who's in the palace right now. Let's go down here. And we'll start investigating the city and its residents, I guess. Boy, because it's kind of high pressure, because if we make the wrong decision, everyone fucking dies.
Working hard?
Not really. Is everything okay between you and the workers?
Well, I'd be lying if I said they're happy. But I'd also be lying if I said I cared.
Whoa!
They're decent people and all, but they seem to have an hard time grasping that somebody around here's got to work the farms, or we all starve. Gulver's the worst.
If that's the guy who brought us in at the beginning,
Seems like
right?
A decent man at first, but he's got a temper on him. Once he told me he killed a man before he came here. He'll tell you if you ask him. Of course, down here with the dwarves' law, a bad temper could land us all in a lot of trouble. I'd keep an eye on that one if I were you.
Okay, so it sounds like, okay, let's write that down. Write that down. I'm treating this honestly like a D&D campaign. I'm gonna be real with you. So Golvar, a guy who we first met, once killed a dude apparently. And then this is, let's do it here. So Hjormund, it sounds like he runs the farms. It looks like. Okay. Let's see what the rest of his story is. Oh, let me change this. Hold on. There we go. Bunk. Okay. Okay. So what is your dealio, my good bitch? Oh, whoop, the game like wouldn't let me tab back into it for a second. What's your story?
My story? Well, I'm from Markarth originally. Started working at Kolskiga Mines as a lad. And after a while, the Silverbloods made me foreman. I was doing pretty well for myself. Until somebody decided to knock me down the shaft into this place.
Oh my god.
I had a wife and son.
Aww.
Still up there, I suppose.
That's fucked up.
They probably think I'm long gone. But chin up, right? Meanwhile, I'm stuck down here, supervising workers to earn me keep. Waiting for the day that I can get out of here and back to my life in Markarth.
So he has a motive, okay? He definitely has a motive, right? So we'll write that down. Runs the farms. Wants to go back to Markarth because of wife and children. Okay, so he definitely has a motive. You know what I'm saying? There's definitely... He's not cleared, you know? Do you know a way out of here?
I wish. Seems like dwarfs designed this place to keep folk in. But the only thing that keeps me sane is thinking there has to be a way out.
Well, I'll be going now.
Alright, well, I'll see you around.
I feel like he's a possibility. You know, he's definitely a possibility. I'm just gonna yeet my way. Yeet! Okay. It's really quiet. Like, there's no background music. It's kind of fucking me up.
Help! There's a looter coming into the city.
What? What'd you see?
I saw a man come down the shaft, but he was armed and he looked like a looter. If he makes it into the city and starts attacking people, he'll break the dwarves' law.
No!
And who knows what will happen.
No!
You have to stop him.
Okay! Okay, where?
Everybody!
Where? Where is he?
Go home and lock your doors.
Oh, shit! Where the fuck's the entrance? Oh god, where was it? Where was it? It was back. Shit. That's the lake. I'm gonna fucking... Everyone's gonna die because I'm not gonna remember where the fucking entrance is. Okay, everyone's going this way. Where's the fucking... Where's the entrance? Clover's house, Citadel. Lake house, underground tunnels. Where is it? I don't know where the city entrance is. It's not based off the Citadel, is it? Is it there? I'm trying to remember where we came. It was the big guy. I remember the big guy. I think it was past here.
Thought I heard something.
Oh shit! Okay, we're fucked. Wait, what? Is that... So I can kill people, but they can't kill people. That doesn't quite...
The Dwemer's Law only applies to citizens of the city.
Okay. But she said that he'll come down and start killing people and break the Dwemer's Law.
Yes.
Okay.
Because a citizen of the city will be hurt.
So hurting a citizen of the city breaks the law.
Yes, also that door that he came from is the entrance to the city.
What door was it? This one?
North wall.
I don't know where fucking direction north is. This one? Yeah, this one. This one, I think. Yeah. Okay. Oh boy, this is... Oh shit. I know, Jeremy. Oh fuck. Okay, this is very high stakes.
Won't get away with that.
Okay, this is very high stakes. I would like to give myself some armor, please. Okay. Just keep walking.
You hear me?
Just keep walking. Okay. There we go. Alright. Anyone? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to loot him. What? There we go. I thought his body, like, disappeared for a second. Take his boots for Inigo later. Oh shit, there's more. Okay. Okay. There's not much going for them. We're just wearing clothes. Dark Brotherhood Warlock? Huh? What? Jesus! Warlock's orders. Huh. Is that all of them then? How'd they get over there? He came down the shaft and he looks like a looter? Sussy. How'd they... What? Let's see. Dark Brotherhood. Where was that? Here, let me... No, that's a different one. What did I take? It was the... Warlock? Warlock's orders. Here we go. My sweet child, if Quintus thinks he can hide from his own family... Oh! If Quintus thinks he can hide from his own family, he is an even greater disappointment than I thought. He may have eluded his other siblings, but I know you won't let me down as they did. Take some of your playthings and find out where that venomous little spider is hiding. And when you find him, Sweetling, do what you do best. So Quintus, we haven't met Quintus yet. Okay. Quintus is part of the Dark Brotherhood then. Okay, so Quintus, we're going to put red on that because that's definitely something I want to investigate. So, okay. Quintus... X, Dark Brotherhood. We'll just do that. That's certainly interesting. Looters were Dark Brotherhood looking for him. Okay? That's definitely something we're gonna want to revisit. Okay? Alright. Let's keep going. And let's go... Yeah, I think Quintus is definitely... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Definitely worth investigating, for surezies. I think I took his weapon on accident. Yeah, we'll take that. I do not need a steel dagger and a steel sword. And I really probably don't need this, honestly. I wanted to hold on to it because it looks really cool, but I honestly don't need it, so we'll try not to get rid of it, but if we might have to, you know. Alright, let's keep going. And let's get back into the city, because that's certainly sussy. That's certainly sussy. I'll say that much. Alright. Let me see. Oh!
Is it over? Is it safe?
I think so. I think so. Let me check something. Sorry. I have a work message and I need to make sure I fill these slots. I'll message you once I'm done streaming. Bonk. Okay. Alright. There we go. Sorry, I have a bunch of people. Sometimes when people like cancel for their like voice lessons, I want to try to refill the slot so I can still make money. When people are like, "Can I take this slot?" I want to be like, "Yeah, yes, the fuck you can." All right. Well, the looters are dead, Miranda. You're good.
Oh, thank the gods! What a relief. We're so lucky that you arrived in time to stop them.
She seems a little too dramatic. I'm kind of sussy.
Done for us.
I'm kind of sussed with her.
Thank you so much. If there's ever anything my husband Tabik and I can do to help you, just ask.
Okay. What's your story, Miranda? Actually, the looters were looking for an Imperial named Quintus. Do you know him?
Quintus? No. There's no one by that name here.
We are still in the hell down. We broke the quest, okay? So we're trying to redo it. We're trying to do it properly because the wenches broke. Hey! Wait! Whoa! What's going on over here? Hey!
Heard you got to kill those looters. Wish
I
could've
accidentally
joined you.
did that,
I haven't
but
been allowed to fight in years.
Why are you going around? Why are you holding the sword?
What about it?
I'd like to buy that armor from you.
It's not for sale.
Well, I can't kill him because then we'll all explode, okay? Are there any others like it?
Nope. This is the only one like it in the
If I kill him, we're all gonna die. So it's not worth it. Alright, well, I'll be going now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just the way he was carrying that axe had me nervous. I don't want the whole world's gonna explode if I do that. Alright, where's Miranda? I did want to talk to her a little bit. We already had the world explode once. I don't want to do it again. We need to find Quintus. So they said Quintus was in the palace. Did you get the other armor bits? No, I did not. Let's see. Yeah, was this Miranda? Yeah, I was talking to you.
Hello, my friend.
Hi. So what's your story?
Oh, there's not much to tell. My husband Tabik runs the clothing store in town. You should stop by. I'm sure you'll leave looking much better.
Are you calling me ugly?
Not that you don't look good now.
Oh.
I mean, it's just, you know, nice clothes are... Oh, who am I kidding? I'm no good at selling anything.
Oh, bless her heart.
I guess that's why they've got me sweeping the floors day in, day out. Well, that, and we weren't invited to be layabouts in the Jarl's Citadel.
What do you mean by layabouts?
Did you see anyone working in the Citadel? I'll bet you didn't.
Nope.
They just amuse themselves all day while those of us down here do all the work. And why? Because Abik's a Redguard and I'm a Breton. I bet if we were both Imperial, it'd be a different story. The worst part is we left Solitude to get away from bigoted Nords after our son died. But here, the Imperials are even worse.
Interesting. Okay. So we got some new lore. So Miranda, it seems like overall there's some resentment around the Citadel. So let's take some notes on Miranda real quick. So Miranda, let's see. Miranda is married to Habik, left to come to city to escape bigoted Nords, but now deal with bigoted Imperials. Such is the ways of Skyrim. Let's see. Kinda. Okay. I think that's about it, other than that she, like, runs the clothing store and stuff, but, frankly, I don't think that's super important, honestly. Yeah, we'll just keep going. Can I ask you something?
Of course.
What happened to your son?
Oh. No offense, but I'd rather not talk about it.
That's fair.
Too many painful memories. And besides, there are enough sad stories around this place as it is. But if you're interested, you can talk to my husband, Habik, in his shop.
We definitely want to talk to him. Ever thought about challenging the Jarl? If I ask her that, am I gonna blow up?
What would we do? Start a rebellion? No way. Not after the dwarves' warning. You know, the many shall suffer for the sins of the one, and all that.
Yeah, so it's not gonna be her then. You believe it?
I'd be a fool not to. If you're not convinced, you should go and talk to Broll in his chambers. He knows more about the dwarves than anyone.
Okay. Let's talk about something else.
All right.
You know way out of here?
If I did, Habik and I probably wouldn't be here. But Ulrin's wife managed to escape a while back.
This game later becomes its own game. So wait,
it,
really?
You might be able to.
For real? There's like a sequel?
I suppose.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we've got some other people to talk to. Let's see who's in here. Brondus's house. I don't know who that is. I don't think we've talked to him yet. Let's see. Anyone in here? What? Oh. What happened to you?
You there. Come over.
Look for the Forbidden City? Oh, interesting. I'll have to look that up. What's, do you need help?
I'm beyond help.
Oh, this is the guy where they're like talking, he's like half alive or something, right?
And I don't have much time. I just need to tell you something.
What's up?
Stendar. He plants these images in my head. He shows me secrets.
Ooh.
Made me come here.
What'd you see?
Something terrifying. Deep in the earth beneath the city. Powerful. And evil. I went down into the tunnels to destroy it. But the energy...
Inherit!
It seeps into your bones. Please. Please, you must find a way to get down there. And finish what I...
No, he's fucking dead! Oh shit, I just showed up and he's... Oh, hey. Hey, that's pretty good. But no, he's fucking dead! We got the J's though. Alright, let me drop some of my shit. Do I have any doubles of books? No. We'll drop these for now. I don't know why we have them. We'll drop the Stormcloak helmet. I'm sure we can get another one of those later. I don't know why we have a bunch of underwear. Yeah, that should be good. Alright, we're gonna take a quick, like, 1 minute break just because I forgot to pee when I was on my actual break. So Kimmy just like, I'm sorry, I keep taking breaks. I'm just like, I want a snack. I need more water. I have to pee. Give me just 1 minute and I promise I'll be right back. Okay, 1 minute. Bam! And bam! Okay, we're good. I peed. I got more water. I'm hydrated. We're good, okay? We're good. I should be ready. I don't usually stream like this long. Like, I don't know, my thing lately has been like, I'd rather have shorter streams and better content, you know? But with this, I'm like, we're committed, okay? You're gonna get matching hat, the gloves behind the ruins, and the closet jerk's armor. And the guy's J's to go down. Ooh, interesting. Oh wait, here's his will. I, Brandis of this vigilance of Stendar, make this will. I leave all my worldly possessions, including my boots, to whoever is willing to continue my mission to rid this place of the evil that lies buried beneath the city. Oh, okay, well, I do get the J's then. Poggers. Alright, well, that's interesting. Kind of feel bad that I just showed up and he died. But, you know, it'd be like that sometimes. It really do be like that. Okay, let's see. Talk to an expert about the immaculate dwarven armor. Ask Ulrin about his wife. Find Quintus. Yeah, we got a good bit to do. Let's see. There's... What? Hey, why is there just a dead lady here? Jishol's key. What happened here? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of bugs, given what happened already, you know? Alright, let's see if Habik is here. What's this? Kolben the dragon. Interesting. It's not really in their house, but, you know. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why there's just a dead lady. That's unique. Let's see. This is the Golden Sentinel Tavern. We'll definitely be able to talk to a lot of people in the tavern, at least. You know? We'll definitely be able to do that. Let's see. Hi.
I heard you took care of some looters for us. If only there was something I could do to thank you.
Ma'am.
Let me know if you think of anything.
Ma'am, you got a little... You got a little something there. Jesus Christ. What do you have for sale?
Take a good look.
Oh my God, they have a mind of their own. Maybe I can get rid of some of my stuff, honestly. I do not need all these poisons, honestly. Sorry if you hear my cat screaming. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what he's on about. It's reaching for God. It really is. Yeah, let me take all your money, actually. That is what you could really do for me. There we go. Have you heard any rumors?
Did you know there are tunnels running all the way under the city? Last one to go down there was Brandis, and it sent him to his deathbed.
Yeah, he's,
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
He's fucking dead. Welcome in, Darren, though. Thank you for the follow. You're not Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. We are completing the Forgotten City mod today, hopefully. So, what's your story?
You want to hear about little old me? Aren't you adorable?
Yeah, just ignore,
but wouldn't
just
you
ignore
like
this.
to know what I know about everyone else around here? Go on. Ask me.
If when everyone dies, you're gonna take the guy's armor. Have you heard any rumors?
Did you notice the big crack in the floor near the city gate? They say some poor fool fell to his death trying to scale the front of the citadel.
Oh, it's moving, bro. It's moving. Have you heard any rumors?
There's something creepy about Marius up in the citadel.
Yeah, he is creepy.
Plus, he never comes down to the tavern. And you just can't trust a man who doesn't drink.
I don't think that's true. Do you know a way out of here?
Only one way out of this city, and that's through the bottom of a mug of moonshine, if you get me.
Oh.
Solve all your problems.
You are an alcoholic. Okay.
At least for a while. But then again, some folks will overdo it.
We've heard about Ulrin before.
The Dahmer fellow, can't miss him. Hit the drinks pretty hard.
Where was he mentioned before? I know we've heard of him before.
Just sits there, night after night. Poor guy.
Jesus Christ.
What happened to her. Caught lots of people talking, but nobody seems to know anything. Odd.
Does she have any more rumors?
Nobody here locks their door, except the Jarl. I hear there's a locked room on the top floor of the Citadel, but nobody's seen what's inside.
I mean, I guess if, like, there's no crime, you don't need to lock your doors, but What if there is? Anything else?
Have you seen Rygus? Walking around in that shiny armor of his, all paranoid, like those dwarven statues.
Yeah, this is like extra
to life
comfy.
any minute. Did you know that beautiful palace above the lake is sealed? Brawl says the last person to go in there locked it behind him. I wonder what's in there.
You know, she knows all kind of shit. All right, I guess that's all her stuff.
Oh, so soon? Well, you know where to find me, honey.
Her boob finally fell back down. I don't think Rastasia has given us any, like, reason to doubt her, but she said that name, Ulrin. We've heard, or Ulrin or whatever. We've heard that before. Where was that? I feel like we've heard it before, but I don't think I have it in my notes. So, however the fuck you spell your name. Kind of astute and runs the tavern. Yeah, I think Quintus is our best bet for our next lead, honestly. That's what I would say. Let's go for Quintus. Let's see. Golvar. Golvar apparently killed somebody, though.
You took down some bandits. Wish I could have sunk my axe into one of them.
Yeah, did you kill somebody?
Well, it's a sad one. But I don't mind telling it. Name's Golvar. I'm a farmer. Always was. Grew up on a farm near Whiterun. It was a good life. Fresh milk and eggs every day. Running around the farm barefoot with my brother and sisters. Never even had to lock.
Maybe it's because I'm paranoid, but whenever people are like, oh yeah, it's the kind of neighborhood where you don't have to lock your doors. Why aren't you locking your doors? Every time you hear some true crime story where it's like, and they never thought it would happen here, no one locked their doors in this neighborhood. Well, maybe that's why it happened. Why are we not locking our doors?
So I did.
That's all I'm saying.
I ran so fast I almost threw up.
He almost threw up.
By the time I got back, it was too late. I found him dead.
That's fucked.
By the side of the road. The cart and all our produce was gone. That was the first time I learned about bandits.
Oh.
My mother passed soon after, and I took over the farm. Now I'm a good a farmer as any, and better than most, but things went downhill from there. The raiding started before long. I'd come outside.
Jetmir's losing his shit.
Chickens missing.
Bro, what's wrong?
Next there was a cow, then 2 cows.
Go on.
That was the first time in 5 generations my family started locking.
That's what I'm saying!
We knew the guards from Whiterun weren't going to help us. One night, when we had nothing left.
The cat got uppies. Jetmir can't believe what they're here. Yeah, Jetmir's like, why aren't you guys locking your fucking doors?
I knew who it was and what they wanted. I took my father's axe and pulled the
David
door
gave him
open
uppies though, so he's okay.
Before he knew it, that bandit had my father's axe right down the middle of his skull.
I mean, good for you. Like, everyone was all like, he killed somebody, but like, this is just an eye for an eye as far as I'm concerned.
Next thing I knew, I was waking up with a mouth full of dirt and lungs full of smoke. My home was burned to rubble.
Oh, Jesus.
My family slaughtered like cows.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And they left me alive to see what they'd done.
I don't think it's Golvar. I think Golvar is just traumatized.
I think about it.
I'm sorry.
Well, at least I got one of the bastards.
Tells sad story as they eat their bread. Yeah. I mean, how else are you gonna get through your trauma?
It helps me get to sleep.
Except a nice loaf of sourdough.
Sometimes. Anyhow, after that, I drifted some. Took odd jobs around Falkreath.
Jetmir's yearning for women through the window. If you hear him meowing.
But there are no women.
There's no women.
I guess I got desperate. I You know.
I feel bad because this man's like trauma dumping, telling us this life story, and Jeffy's just in the background like, ah! Women!
Just enough to survive.
He believes they're out there somewhere.
Yeah, one day you'll get wenches, buddy. One day.
And then one day,
yeah.
I watched.
He's only got a few days to get bitches.
And help myself to his things. And I guess I realized what I'd become. Next thing I knew, I was looking for a
Jesus Christ, this is dark.
And I found the entrance to this place.
Oh my god.
And that shaft.
Huh.
And I started my life over again.
Good for you, Golvar. You have your own farm again?
Well, I'm a farmer. But the land I work isn't mine. Metellus had declared himself Jarl.
No one likes Metellus is what I'm getting.
Before I got here.
Mance needs Misty to make him. We should have brought Misty, bro. That would have made everyone happy. You don't sound happy about that.
I'm not. All I've ever wanted is to make a living by working the land.
Yeah, you tell him, Jedmir.
But it seems someone always has to go and steal the fruits of my labor. That bloody Jarl. He's no better than the bandits who destroyed my life. Only difference is he uses words instead of weapons. But he'll get his. One day.
What do we think about Golvar, chat?
Just do me a favor and keep that.
Because I was really ready to clear him, and then he was like, I'm not 100% convinced. I'm not 100% convinced that it's Golvar. I'm gonna be honest.
Don't know why you're asking me. Don't know if there's a way out, and don't care. This is my home now. Not even a dozen bandits could drive me away.
What do we think?
Fair enough.
Cause I'm not 100% convinced. I'm really not. You know. Let's see. Who are you?
I hear you're handy in a fight. Glad you're on our side, love.
What's your story, Yzmar?
My story? Oh, not much to tell, love. I just work the land, make sure we've got enough food for everyone. Can't afford to run out here, you know? It's hard work. Probably harder than being Jarl, but I don't mind it. Keeps me active as I'm getting on a bit. And I sleep soundly every night.
You don't think the Jarl works? Ugh. You don't think the Jarl works hard?
No, love. I don't think he works hard at all. And I'd say the same to his face if I ever saw him. But he's always hiding up there in his citadel.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not even sure what he does. I know he doesn't keep order. We've got the dwarves' law for that. But live and let live, I say. Long as I have a roof over my head and food on my table, and good neighbors like Gulvar, I can't complain.
Yeah, do you know a way out?
Oh, come on, love. It's not that bad, is it? You've only just arrived. Why not give the place a chance before you go looking for a way out?
I don't belong here. Let's say that.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm afraid I don't know if there's a way out or not. But now that I think about it, you might want to talk to Degland over at the Honest Trader. Offered to sell me a way out a while back, but his price was steep. Up to you. Bye for now.
I don't think it's her. She seems fine. You know, that's, what's her face? Asanshi. I don't think it's Golvar. My gut's telling me it's not. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I want to talk to other people. I definitely want to talk to Quintus before we do anything. There's part of me that's like, is the Jarl the threat? Is that the bit? You know? I don't know. Alright, let's see. let's find Quintus. That's the next thing I want to do. Brandos's house. Let's see. Fire. That's the other guy. We'll talk to them eventually. Quintus is my #1 priority right now. That's what I want to do. Golvar. I think we have all the information we need on Golvar if it is him, you know. Ysmar's house. They said Quintus would be... Oh yeah, let's talk to Ulrin. But they said Quintus would be up in the palace, if anything. So maybe that's where we'll... That's where we'll look. The Citadel, that's what it was. No one's in here. Letter to Macy. Dear Ulrin, I know I don't tell you this enough, but you are a beautiful man. I know you hate being trapped down here, but honestly, don't mind it. As long as I'm here with you, I'm home. Aw, that's very sweet. Any other letters? Let's see. Nothing over here. Let's see. Is that guy?
Just out for an evening stroll.
He's creepy.
Not a soul stirring. Quiet as the grave.
Yeah, you're not Quintus, but that's a dialogue option.
Quintus? My name is Marius. You must have the wrong person.
No, I think I just want to see what happens, but I know it's Marius.
And perhaps you're not as stupid as you look.
Oh, it is! Oh, okay.
You found me. Now, what do you want?
I want to know why you're hiding from your family.
My family? Ha! The Dark Brotherhood likes to use terms like family, but they don't know the meaning of the word. They're still holding a grudge because I left them, you see. They don't like it when people leave them. It makes them look ineffectual. Say, do you happen to know whether anyone else knows I'm here?
The note I found implied that nobody else had been able to find you.
That is excellent.
Yeah, I don't know why he's clapping.
Hopefully
he's doing it so joyfully too, and then his face is fucking deadpan.
What's it going to take for you to keep this quiet, hmm?
I want to make sure you're not a threat to the safety of this city.
Oh, how noble of you. I've admitted it. I worked for the Dark Brotherhood, and I was very good at what I did. But I'm quite comfortable here, as you can see. What would be my motivation to kill anyone now? I'd need some kind of death wish. Now, was there something else you wanted to ask me? Or can I get back to enjoying my retirement?
I'll be going now.
You do that.
I don't know. Ask Ulrin about it. Still need to talk to Ulrin. And we still need to figure out shit about the armor. I don't know. Death Wish, she says, but wasn't he the one talking about how it would be cool if the whole city just died? Yeah, and that's what would happen. I'm not worried about Ysmar, I'm gonna be honest. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Like where Ulrin would be. Let's go in here, just because we haven't been in here yet. Let's see. What's down here? It's pretty empty. Oh. The underground tunnels is down there. That's what the one guy was looking into before he died. I wonder if there's a way we can get the key to access that and see what the fuck's going on in the tunnels, you know? Let's go in here. Because this was the Miranda's husband. Should be in here. Maybe we can learn about what happened to their son. Let's see. Reward notice. Missing. Golden ring. Belonged to our deceased son. Oh. Interesting. Is he down here? Yeah, there's the underground tunnels again. But they're not in here. So where is everybody? No one's in there. Well, what time is it? It's hard to tell what time it is because we're underground. What's the time right now? Yeah, it's 1 a.m. So why isn't everyone asleep? And why is everything still open? Well, I guess it's not because no one's there, but yeah, because it's just gonna lead to the tunnels again, ain't it? Because the one guy wasn't in his house. Like, Ulrim wasn't in his house when we went to go find him. So I don't know where the fuck everyone is. Do we go back into the Citadel? Let's see. Brandis' house. Yeah, we've been here before, if I recall correctly. Golden Sentinel Tavern. Yeah. Been through here. Rikus' house. That was the one weird guy. Rikus was the one with the...
out of my house.
I was told I was allowed to investigate.
What do you want?
What's your story?
Get out of my face, milk drinker.
What's your problem?
My problem is that I'm the only one around here whose head isn't buried in the sand. That's my problem.
What do you mean?
I mean, everyone acts like nothing's wrong. But we're one stupid mistake away from being wiped out. Like the last lot of people who lived here. Seems like I'm the only one ready for what's coming. Whatever that is. And when it hits, it's every man for himself.
Seems like a doomsday
You've
prepper.
been warned.
What do you think is coming?
I don't know. But did you ever get the feeling these statues are watching us? Like they're waiting for something. I don't like it.
Do you know a way out of here?
If I did, I wouldn't be standing here listening to you.
Interesting. Huh.
Uh-huh. Get out now.
I just want to see if there's anything.
Get out.
Aha! That's what I'm looking for. What does this say? Because there's text blocking it. Vernon, this is your final warning.
Before I crack your skull open.
Let's talk to Vernon then. Because that's interesting. That's unique. Let's see. Vernon, I have some bad news for you about your neighbor buddy. Let's see. Hey, can I talk to you? You good? I need to talk to you.
Hey, I hear you dealt with those little...
Oh, he seems like such a nice guy. What'd he do? Why is someone writing you threatening notes?
Look, I haven't done anything wrong, if that's what you're thinking. It's not as if I'm a vampire or a necromancer or anything. Somebody just has a problem with my preference for male company.
He's homophobic!
Nothing gets by you, is it?
Who's being homophobic?
Sorry, that was mean of me. Yes, I like men.
Yeah.
And when you grow up in Windhelm like I did, you expect a bit of hostility. I saw enough friends attacked and driven away by angry Nords to the cost of not keeping your personal affairs to yourself.
Oh, you should raise him up. Maybe I will.
What was it? 20
Why
years?
is Rikus writing?
Living in the barracks with a dozen other guards.
What?
Watching what I said and where I looked. But that kind of fear eats away at you slowly.
Oh, this mod is making me sad. I'm gonna be real with you. Like, so much of our Skyrim playthrough is like boobies, and now it's just like, oh my god. This hits hard. This hits home.
Well among the Nords of Windhelm. But at least down here, I get to be who I am. Or, at least, I thought that was the case. Perhaps I was wrong.
Do you know who's writing these?
No, I don't. I keep my personal affairs to myself, and I've never really been interested in any of the men here. Not my type. It wouldn't usually bother me. I have a thick skin, and I can handle myself in a fight better than most. But if these threats keep getting worse, eventually my secret admirer is going to get violent.
Can we confront Rikus about the note he wrote? Yeah, the person writing these is Rikus.
Rikus? The big, crazy Nord who walks around with his weapon drawn?
Yeah,
Of all the people it could have been, he's the most terrifying.
Yeah. I haven't spoken with him about it yet.
Oh, alright. Well, see what you can do. I think it would only inflame things if I speak of him myself.
About him, though.
What about him?
Okay, yeah, so we'll have to talk to him.
Look, friend, you've outstayed your welcome.
Let's go talk to him and see what's up, okay? Because there's something... I don't know what Rikus' deal is. I thought he was just crazy, but I guess he's crazy and homophobic. Damn. Okay, what's your deal? Get up! Get up! Get up!
What do you want?
Why are you homophobic?
Yeah? So what? What are you gonna do about it?
I'm gonna ask you to stop threatening him.
And why should I? Do you know what he is?
Oh, Jesus!
His presence here is going to break the dwarves' law and get us all killed.
Have you met dwarves? They don't give a shit. If that's true, why hasn't the dwarves wall been broken already?
Maybe they haven't worked it out yet, but they will. Now take your stupid arguments and get lost. Get out.
Interesting. I don't like him. I don't like him. I feel like I don't have enough evidence to know for sure he's gonna be the one breaking the law, but... Well, I talked to him. Why didn't it say I haven't? Yeah, I would have broken the dwarves law already. Yeah, if breaking the dwarves law... Yeah, there was an intimidation option. Let's go do that. Let's try that and see what happens. Let's try to intimidate. Good call, Frostbite. And we'll see what happened. I just didn't like the intimidation option. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't like it. We'll try that though and see if that gives us something else. We'll try it. Okay. Wake up! Get up! Get up! Yeah, the intimidation option was awful. Like that was was.
What do you want?
Okay.
Yeah? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I don't like this. This is nasty. I don't like that.
I'd wager you don't even have the spells to pull off something like that. If you're trying to scare me, you'll have to do a lot better than that.
Is there any other options we have?
What are you going to do? Yeah.
That's all we got. We might need more evidence. Maybe. Let me try talking to Vernon again and see if that does anything, but it looked like we hadn't completed like the talking thing then, but we did all our dialogue options. Hey.
What can I do for you, my friend?
Hello.
Well, come on back anytime. Hey, why are you still...
I'm leaving. Maybe it's because it's nighttime. Maybe that's the thing. So, don't know. I'm not sure, honestly. Let's see. We need to find Habik or whatever. But it's also like 3:29 right now. Welcome back, Sable. Hello. Several margaritas later. Oh my gosh. Holy guacamole. I'm wondering, we might just have to wait till it's daytime again, but I don't think we're gonna be able to finish this quest. Oh god damn it! Welcome in, Yumi! Hello! Hello, Raiders! Welcome! Okay, hello, Raiders! My name is EB Games, your local woman enjoyer and Skyrim enjoyer. Welcome to the stream. We are currently playing, now, we were literally, originally I said I was going to finish this quest tonight, and then it got kind of crazy, and then I was going to be like, well, I think we're actually not going to finish the quest tonight. At any rate, so now we got to do it. Uncharted 4, ooh, how is that? So, for everyone who just came in, let me give you the tea, okay? So we are playing the Forgotten City, right? And what it is, basically, is we've been in this city, we got yeeted down here, and originally, when we first found this city, everything was fucked up. Everything like exploded. There were burnt bodies everywhere. It was fucked up. And we have to go back in time and stop the city from being destroyed. Because the way the city was destroyed is there's this thing called the Dwarves Law, right? And what the Dwarves Law does is if anyone breaks any rule, like breaks the law whatsoever, the world just fucking explodes, okay? So someone is going to be trying to break the Dwarves Law. So we've gone back in time to try and figure out who that is going to be. So, because there's a lot of NPCs, we've been taking notes. So, I don't think there was a deaf guy or a guard. I don't think it's him. Right now, our biggest lead, and I hadn't written this one down, is there's this guy named Quintus, he was an ex-Dark Brotherhood assassin, and the Dark Brotherhood was looking for him. They sent looters down to try and kill him, and if a citizen got killed, then that would break the Dwarves Law and everyone would explode. So he's not entirely cleared yet. Rikus was making homophobic threats towards someone, towards Vernon. So he's like my biggest thing right now. And then Golvar definitely could be sussy, but I don't think he is. He killed a guy, and he admitted that he killed a guy, but it was because, like, it was kind of in self-defense, and, like, kind of like an eye for an eye. I really think it's Rikus, honestly, but I don't know if we have enough evidence, right? So I kind of want to go to the Jarl, and I don't want to make any calls yet, okay? I don't want to make any calls yet, but I do think that I kind of want to talk to him and see if I can just, like, talk to him, you know? But it's also, like, 3 a.m. games time, so we're gonna, like, wait for 6 hours and see kind of what happens, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's the homophobic guy, but I don't know for sure. But we do have a side quest from the Jarl's adopted daughter to get information out of the cook by giving her hard drugs. And I really don't want to do that because she talked about how she's been recovering for a while and she's been really good about not being on drugs.
Leslie,
thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the stream. You're not Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. But she's done a really good job about not being on drugs, and I don't want to give her drugs, but, like, the Jarl's daughter thinks that if we give her drugs, she'll start talking about, like, certain stuff, and she'll start spilling the tea, you know? And I'm just like, I don't want to do that, personally. It doesn't sound very nice to me, but, like, I don't know, bro, you know? So, I want to go to the Citadel. Well, actually, there are a few people we still need to talk to that we couldn't find. Who are you? I just want to know. Deglin, we haven't seen him before.
Bandit Slayer. Good to see you.
That's mean. Did you find we did find the Rikus note, and we did interrogate him about it. Cozy, thank you so much for the follow. You're not Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. But we did talk to Rikus about, but the quest kind of broke, so we actually need to check on that. What's your story?
My story?
Well, I love his voice.
My name is Deglin, and I'm a merchant, yeah? What people say to me?
Minor spoilers, don't mind. I don't mind. If anything, it might help me.
Why are you a merchant? They find it surprising because I'm such an honest and trustworthy person. And sometimes you hear about your merchants who are, you know, dishonest.
Yeah?
Well, I say to those people, I'm not like them.
I'm not like other
My
merchants.
father used to say to me, Deglin,
don't to progress is to succeed on any of those speech checks. Oh, that's going to be annoying if that's the case.
And I was, my friend. I was not only just a good boy, I was the best boy.
The best boy
now, and the best merchant with the best prices for you.
Aw. Well, do you know way out of here?
My friend, you're in luck.
Oh, he was the guy that has the way out.
But, let's keep it down, eh? Don't want anyone else to hear, do we? But, I'll be honest with you, my friend. I'm looking after you. There's a bit of a catch. See, it's only gonna work for one person, yeah. I've been keeping it to myself, you know, thinking maybe I'll need it myself one day. But I'm a reasonable guy, yeah. I reckon I could be, what's the word, persuaded? Persuaded to give it away for, say, 1,000 gold coins?
We have 1,000 gold, so we could just dip, you know? In the true ending, epilogue, Rikus gets with the guy he's threatening. Oh. So he's not homophobic. He's like, that Greek boy pussy is making me question my loyalty to Rome. It's that kind of bit. I see. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Well, you shouldn't be a dick about it, you know? So we're probably gonna have to uncover some more info then to find out. Declan's not a good boy? What? No! What's the tea?
My friend, I can tell you it involves magic. Very special and very rare magic. But,
He's a Bellathor? God damn it, he charmed me with his accent. Vernon, this is your last warning. Stop making my pee-pee hard. Isn't there another way I can help you?
Well, I like you, so
Unzips
I'm gonna be
pants?
honest with you. Business here, it's hard, you know. Really hard. I'm doing it tough, yeah? And if I don't have the coin to pay the Jarl, then I lose my shop. I'm out in the cold. I have no money and no food. Yeah? What I'm saying is, I need the money, my friend. That's all I need.
Let's talk about something else.
Fair enough.
About that way out.
Oh, yeah. Have you thought about my special offer?
Oh, okay. What happens if we take the offer? Here, I want to save before we try this, but I kind of want to know what happens. Like, what happens if we...
Yes, my friend.
If we take it?
Oh, yeah. Have you thought about... Oh, good choice, my friend. You won't regret it. Oh, and if you do, no refunds. Not that it'll matter.
You mean to tell me this underground town isn't good for business?
It's called an elixir of acrobatics. I got it from an alchemist in Morrowind.
Oh, he's a snake oil salesman. I get it now.
And now it's all yours. Once you drink it, you'll be able to jump like a skeever on skooma. You should be able to leap up to the shaft at the entrance. Now go, my friend. Get out of here and be free.
Interesting. So, I really think he Falmer blood elixired us. Gonna be real. But for shits and giggles, oh, who's Lukey?
Oh, a new person. Well, welcome to our city. Or whatever it is.
I was hoping his special offer was a sex act. I cannot open my boy pussy right now, no. But welcome it now, go. What's your story? You sound upset.
I'm Lukey. I'm what passes for an alchemist and healer around here. I'll be honest. I don't much care for dealing with people or healing them.
She's real for that.
I don't trust anyone else around here with the responsibility. And I guess somebody's got to do it, right?
Doesn't sound like you think much of your neighbors.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't like my neighbors. I don't like anyone. Stupid, untrustworthy, selfish, ugly creatures.
She's so real for that!
But you know what? At least down here, people are on their best behavior most of the time. What with the dwarves' law and all.
She just like me for real, for real.
Bastards, but at least they have to be discreet about
people
it.
Are still
nobody's
bastards.
Openly violent,
Not the
and nobody's ever
Bernese.
stolen anything from me.
That Greek boy pussy has me questioning my loyalty to Rome. Do you know a way out of here?
There isn't one. This place is like a firefly trap.
Vernon.
One way in,
Or no, Regis.
way out. Could be worse though. You could be living in bloody Skyrim.
Fair. About Brandis.
Yes. What about him?
He's... So about Brandis. Yeah, what happened? He's fucking dead.
Oh, I see. Brandis. At least he's no longer suffering. And let that
I know,
be a lesson
Jetmir,
to
it's
anyone
crazy.
thinking of entering the tunnels under the city.
What happened to him?
He came here with his partner, full of big talk about how Stendar sent them to purge some great evil from beneath
That do
the
be what
sea.
you gotta do.
None of
Damn.
us know exactly what's down
Damn.
there. But if there is a great evil, then it made the mighty Stendar look like a milk drinker. All I know is nobody with half a brain should go down there.
Oh, she's
Not
thinking
without
about
a way
hydrate.
to protect themselves from the energy that killed poor Brandis.
Well, I'll be going now.
All right. See you soon, neighbor.
I like her. She's real.
What do you want?
Can I talk to him more? No.
Uh-huh.
There's no new dialogue options. Let's try talking to Vernon again and see if that fixes it, but I don't know if he's still gonna be in the same spot. Who are
We
you?
can talk, but be quick. Domitus could be back any second.
What's your story?
I'm Saphira. I'm from Markarth, from a part called the Warrens. If you've never gone there, don't.
Do you want an elixir of
Just
acrobatics for sexual
About
prowess?
a year ago, I met a guy there. Said he was there for business. Nobody has any business being in the Warrens. But he had coin, and when he saw me, I saw a way out. Long story short, I followed him here. The more I think about it, though, I would have been better off in the Warrens with the beggars and skeevers.
Jesus. So you want to get away from Dominus?
Guess you haven't met him, huh? Take my advice. Stay as far away from him as you can.
Don't the laws here protect you from him?
If only. Look, whoever dreamt up the dwarves' law didn't think it through. Maybe it was meant to protect people, but what it really does is make everybody too afraid to stand up for themselves or challenge people in power. And Dominus knows that. He's next in line as Jarl of this place, so he gets his way by threatening to punish anyone who doesn't do what he wants. He's never physically hit anyone here.
Interesting.
But the point is, he doesn't have to.
This all started because the courier got an erection.
They don't cry easily.
Yep.
I cry most days. I think about leaving him, but where would I go? He says he'd make sure I wound up living in poverty
Jesus
again,
Christ!
like good old Dooley.
Jeez. Oh, whoever picks this option, go fuck yourself. Is there anything I can do to help?
No, interfering will only make things worse. The only way you can help me is to find a way out.
You should learn to deal with your own problems.
Shut up. About the dwarves' law. I don't know if there's a way out or not, but there are places beneath this city nobody has ever explored. If I were you, I'd start with the tunnels. Well, I suppose that's all I can ask for.
We need to go in the tunnels.
Funny, I was gonna ask you the same question.
I'll be going now.
All right, but we never had this chat, okay?
Okay. I want to talk to her, to Dominus or whatever the fuck. So he's probably in the Citadel too. Is there anyone around here we haven't talked to yet before we go into the Citadel? I think that's well, wait a second. Hold on. We went in here at the beginning before we went back in time. That's where they said, go into the tunnels. That was not Misty. We disabled Misty. We made her not, like, because that's part of the reason, if you missed it, part of the reason we think that, is it gonna crash this time like last time? No, I don't think so. We think part of the reason that the game crashed and everything got fucked up was because one of our followers accidentally hit the Jarl. Which is hilarious, right? But Misty would not leave us alone. We dismissed all our followers, but Misty literally would not leave us alone. So we had to disable her because she followed us all the way down here. Wait, Leandris' corpse. There's the helmet. Huh. Who's Leandris? Yeah, what's going on? A strange energy radiates all around you. Oh, shit! What? I'm wondering... Huh. Look at the helmet. Where did I put it? Where is it? Makes wearer immune from radiation when worn as a complete set. So I'm gonna need the hands and the armor. Because right now, I don't have the complete set. And I'm assuming because I don't have the complete set, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna...
Would you like a hint as to where one of the pieces is?
Yeah, because I know one of them's on the guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of them is homophobic.
Yeah, yeah. What about the other one?
That one I am not going to tell you because it's really interesting and I want you to figure it out yourself.
I hate that. Okay. Well, how are we gonna get the armor from the homophobic guy?
Murder.
But then we're gonna get fucked up because of the dwarves' law.
I'll tell you this because I feel like you're not gonna figure it out on your own. You can run the time loop again. If you kill him and then run to the lake house, you can start the loop over.
And I'll keep the armor.
You'll keep what's in your inventory.
Is that what I'm supposed to do?
There might be another way to do it. I know I just killed him. And I didn't feel bad about it.
I mean, I wouldn't feel bad about it either, but I'm wondering if, like, is that how I'm supposed to play it? Like...
I feel like there's another way, but
I feel like that's not the intention.
I didn't discover it. So, and they do go out of their way to be like, he's kind of the worst, and I mean, he'll come back to life.
We just need the armor, you know. Welcome in, Morgan! I've done a playthrough for Forgotten City, so she got stuck somewhere. Yeah, I commented this on another creator's TikTok. I encourage backseating because I'm dumb as fuck. So what David's saying, right, because we need the armor set so we don't get the radiation. What David's saying is I can just kill him and start the time loop over again. But I feel like that's not what I'm supposed to do. You know? I don't think that's what's intended. But is that like what you're supposed to do to get the armor? Is just fucking kill him? Who are you?
The 8. I hear you took on a band of marauders by yourself, you buffoon. Next time, come and get me. I'll show
Come and get
what
me.
for.
What's your story?
Name's Castellus Vitus, military engineer of the Imperial Legion. Out of action.
The elf pussy can do anything. True. Do not underestimate my elf boy pussy. I am loyal to the Empire. In fact, I killed... Do they know that? Wait, do they know? Do they know? Do they know the war's over? Do they know?
The war's not over.
Does he know? Well, I killed, what's his fuck? Ulfric. Do they know? Chat, do they know? Do they know? I am loyal to the Empire because I fucked Rika in front of the entire Imperial army. And that's loyalty, baby.
That's odd.
Empire
You
for
don't
life.
look like an Imperial. Can't be helped, I suppose.
My dick sure does.
These days, we've got to accept help wherever we can.
They don't know, bro. They don't know. I suppose.
Now, I expect you'll
just-
have questions about
does he
how
know?
this place runs. Happy to share what I've learned. What did you want to know?
What have you been working on in your workshop?
Ah, yes, my workshop. Well, of course, as an engineer...
Fuck, you're so good. She got deleted from the game. Yeah, we can't find her now. The High Queen of Skyrim drained my balls on the steps of the Blue Palace, and you question my loyalty? Yeah, I still need to fuck. I think next playthrough, because I am trying to be a good noodle, right? And this is the harem playthrough, but we aren't doing all the Skyrim, like the romance quest mods and the amorous adventure stuff, right? Oh, he's not talking about the Civil War? Oh. Next time we do another male character, I want to actually go all in on the harem bit, right? Because with this, the reason I chose the harem bit for this one is like he's an RPG character for me, right? Severin's one of my Pathfinder D&D characters, so I wanted to create kind of like a party, you know? And then I got horny. Not him, it was me that wanted more women. But like next time we do a male character, we are gonna like go all in on being a man slut. Like literally the whole playthrough is just gonna be like, how many bitches can I bed? Like, you know how we have the death counter for Dark Souls? We're gonna have a slut counter on the top. Like, how many sluts can I sloot, you know? We'll keep a running tally, you know? We're gonna go all in. But I don't know if we'll do that next playthrough or the one after. Do your noble guy right now, do you have a mod? I don't think I do. What do you do around here?
Jarl's got me working on repairs to the Citadel. This place was built to last, but it still needs an engineer's touch.
An engineer! I hate his voice.
Need to be oiled, cracks need to be patched up, and that bloody water pipe in the bathroom is constantly springing a leak.
The water pipe!
But it's a good idea.
The
to make
water
yourself
pipe!
Useful around here.
Oh!
No doubt the Jarl will make good use of your skills too.
Wait!
Those might be.
Can we crack the wall open? No, there's no way. Have you noticed any suspicious behavior?
Suspicious behavior, you say? Ah, so the Jarl has found a task for you, keeping tabs on us? Don't worry, your secret's safe with me, friend. Well, the Citadel's mainly full of good Imperial stock, so you don't have to worry too much about them. But now that you mention it, lately I've been wondering if the Citadel isn't haunted. Every now and then, mostly late at night, I swear I can hear a woman sobbing. I'll be damned if I know where it's coming from, but it's not Gaia next door, so
we haven't talked to Gaia
but
yet.
A ghost. Gods know a lot have died in here.
Do you understand the technology behind the Citadel?
Yes, well, not completely. A little. I think I understand the pipes that run all over the place. See, they mainly carry water. There's a single pipe on the top floor bringing water from outside the Citadel inside. Water then trickles down through each floor to the lake. But that's not all. It seems the water flowing through these pipes
Every time he
causes
says
these
water,
gears to
I'm
rotate.
sorry.
And when that happens, they somehow create light. The dwarves were brilliant engineers. I doubt I could hold a candle to them. Not that I would need to, with all the lights in this place.
I'll be going now.
Right you are.
Okay. Yeah, let's go to the Citadel and talk to some people there, because I think we did miss some people. Let's see. Yeah, that's one of the guys. Yeah. Actually, I think it is unfortunately best. I am gonna actually, the design intent is that you kill him? Okay. Interesting. I think I am gonna call it here just because I want to keep going, but my throat, I'm gonna be dead for work tomorrow if I do, honestly. For those of you who don't know, I'm a singing teacher. And I scream a lot when I stream because I get excited. And if I keep going, I'm gonna fuck up my voice for work tomorrow. So I think we are gonna stop here. But I am excited to finish this quest. I'm definitely super hyped to finish this quest. Because I do think we made a lot of ground, but we still got places to go. Yeah, there's one of the dwarven tablets. Like, drink some lemon juice before bed. I'm probably gonna make a cup of tea, honestly, because my throat is not feeling hot. I'm gonna be honest. I need to, like, I tell myself, I'm like, I need to chill out when I stream. I need to chill out, you know, because I kill my fucking voice. But I have so much fun. I just get excited. But there's a helmet on the armor just on the ground. Yeah, I have the helmet and I have the boots. I still need the armor and the hand. So it looks like next week when we come back to this, we're gonna have to kill, what's his name? Wenches. We're gonna have to kill him and then just fuck up with the timeline, you know? So I think that's what we're gonna do. Fox Project, sure. But let's see. Yeah, all right. Well, gamers, thank you so much for coming out on this Skyrim Sunday. If you are new here, I know we had a lot of new people today. My name is EB Games. I mostly stream Skyrim. Skyrim is my love. I stream Skyrim every Sunday. I stream Dark Souls every Wednesday, and I stream Fallout with my boyfriend Dave every Saturday. And then Friday, I'm gonna start streaming on YouTube. Friday, we're actually gonna be starting another immersive and epic playthrough, but this one's gonna be kind of like an all-encompassing playthrough, of like a more long-term playthrough than these other like cinematic like character one-shots have kind of been, you know. So let me do my links and whatnot. So if you'd like to keep up with me and my streams and whatnot and get announcements and stuff, I do have a Discord server. If you'd like to see the other VODs and whatnot and my other content, you want to know how we got here, I do have a VODs channel. And then here's my other miscellaneous social media and all that jazz. But thank you, gamers, for hanging out with me today. Let's see, what's our raid message gonna be? We'll get our raid set up, and let's see, there we go. So, let's keep our raid message kind of simple today, because we don't know this person, and I don't want to freak them the fuck out. Our raid message is just gonna be, EB raid, and I'll make a little thing that you can copy paste. If you have access to emotes, we'll use the autism creature, the yippee, because it's honestly, the yippee is honestly my favorite emote. But I had a lot of fun today, gamers. I really hope you enjoyed it today. I had a ton of fun. And I will see you guys on, and then actually Saturday we aren't gonna be playing Fallout. Saturday, we're gonna be starting a Pathfinder campaign with a few other VTubers and VTuber adjacent people. So I've had a lot of people ask about me doing tabletop RPG content, but I'm gonna be playing a Pathfinder campaign with me, Yoro and Lavi from Share Yuri Pro, a VTuber agency. And then my two voice students, Flame and Munch. And then David's going to be DMing it, actually. It's going to be really, really fun, and I think you guys will like it a lot. So I will see you all on Wednesday, and I hope you have a wonderful start to your week. Bye-bye, gamers!